Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our September 23rd, 2025 Board of County Commissioners 9 a.m. board briefing meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present. And we've got a busy morning because I know we have some executive sessions at the end, so we will get started. Jeff, please.
Yeah, and we start with John going through some updates he has on our list.
Okay, so really quickly, I think most of this time should be focused on what we're thinking about for earmark requests. However, following up from last meeting, right now, the House and Senate have different appropriations bills with different funding levels for different programs that are important to the county. Just a couple notes in the House. This is actually all the House. The price grant is eliminated. So I know that was important to us. The Senate still has funding for it. The home program in the House is eliminated. The Senate still hasn't funded. I think we both know. I don't think home's going away. Unless you think so. Yeah. We talked about LIHTC, the Tax Relief American Families Workers Act that was addressed in HR 1. So we can check that box as a successful. On PFAS, there is a House provision that is eliminating. Got my notes here. All risk assessment implementation guidance. So it's really the House is just stepping back and saying PFAS, we're not going to be as involved in PFAS. So something to watch that is not Senate appropriations language. Behavioral health, we've got a really beefy report that we're working on right now. And Commissioner Waldron and Commissioner Jordan, I know we had talked about some different items. I will send that around to the entire board once it's complete, just to kind of shape down, decide what is important to us. I will say under the House and a Senate kind of their different grants, there's a lot of consolidation in the House into block grants, specifically SAMHSA funding sources that really could impact the county. And so I did connect with Justin Johnson. These are some concerns of his. And another concern, see on here, was of course the Medicaid cuts, how it will affect the state, and then how that trickles down to the county. So I have some numbers, but again, it's probably isn't the time to address those because it'll be late. I talked to Public Works, and the priority project is Thorpe Road. I think we've all talked about this. It also lines up with the transportation improvement plan that was approved by the board. So in terms of just juggling and putting together the entire system, Public Works also recommended, which I certainly agree, that we should stay on brand. This is a project that we know Representative Baumgartner is very interested in. He said that repeatedly to Mr. Valencia and Commissioner Kearns. So I think we're in a really good place. Lastly, that I think really will be good for us to talk about briefly is what our earmark requests to Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell are going to be. So I think probably take, I don't want to be prescriptive here, so push back, feel free to push back, but probably nothing in the roads, public works space. I don't know if there's really any projects that would be super interesting to them. Maybe Argonne, we're still maybe a year or two away from really being able to think about what that could look like. Public Works is working on, I think the last was some right-of-way acquisition. Scott, you would know better than I, but I think it's somewhere in that space. But point being, we're really just not ready. On the PFAS side, we've had some conversations on filtration. When it comes to private wells, though, the federal government's not going to pay for anything. So I don't know if there's really a great PFAS play. So now that I've said all things we can do, I don't know if the board has taken some time to think about some different opportunities, but love to discuss those now possibly and answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments?
Have you heard anything with regard to restoring funding to EPA for disaster relief and or mitigation efforts? For instance, Superfund site funding efforts?
I would imagine that, I don't know if that's mandatory or discretionary, so subject to appropriations bills, but I will look into it. That won't take me long to figure out funding levels. And stepping back macro, I mean, the Senate and the House have to negotiate so many things that by the time we're finished with our federal agenda, we should have a good sense of what funding levels we do want to support and don't support. But it could be too early. However, if there is a difference between the House and Senate, I think it's definitely in play to say we support higher funding levels or, maintain responsible funding levels.
Yeah, it's my understanding that they have, that the fund has been depleted. For all intents and purposes depleted. And so the ability to use and tap into those funds for restorative efforts is hampered, not because of the quality of the project, but because of the availability of funds.
Now, let me check to see how that account is
Okay.
built up. That's
Okay.
appropriate. And then Commissioner, we do have to figure out on the EDA grant how we want to proceed. Want to talk at all about that now? Or is that
No, we can talk about it now. I mean, there's one more grant opportunity that I think the application is in October. And this is for funding for the Thorpe Road. The EDA grant.
yeah,
So there's another opportunity for funding for securing funds to restore the economic vitality of Medical Lake and that whole area that was impacted by the fire. And so one of the things that I've been working on is the intersection at Four Lakes and the configuration of that to accommodate a couple new businesses that are looking to go down there. And talking to the administrator for the EDA program, he thought that those investments into that area, because it's right on the lake to go to Medical Lake, would be considered appropriate and stuff. So we need to, do we have the ability, capacity within the county to do that grant? Or is that a grant that I can work up? Or what would be the pleasure of the board in terms of pursuing that? Probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $15 million of availability of funds to bring to that area.
and why this grant is, so I mean, a couple of things, happy to, in our grant shop, support any efforts anywhere in the county. What's interesting about this grant, though, is it's not just your basic public works grant. It is specifically designated for areas that have a presidential disaster declaration.
Right.
So we are in a prime spot. And Letnick obviously probably wants to put some points on the board. So this is a great opportunity.
Does require match.
I don't know if it
No,
does.
that's,
He didn't say.
They didn't say anything about a match.
Because that would be the only thing that would be hard to make happen at this point.
But we can find out if it's required, if there is a match, and then find entities that could make the match. It's clearly not going to be the county, but maybe there's an opportunity for us through R3 or somebody else to step in and fill that void.
Yeah, that would be my only concern. No, and then because of the HUD funding, is there any in that area, did that have any effect on it?
It's so early in the process. I mean, as everyone has read, I mean, we're gonna see a CR. We just don't know the duration, right? That's the back and forth, the negotiations are happening. But under CR, I mean, all accounts are funded, you know, from FY 25 levels. So there won't be the impact until, you know, past appropriations bills. So
I guess I'd just be concerned if we're doing a grant, I mean, which I would totally go after the grant. But does it diminish our opportunity because there's that big HUD fund sitting there, that $40-some million?
gotcha.
You know, that would that diminish the opportunity, or to the two totally separate and don't have?
Two totally separate agencies.
Excuse me.
I mean, they're not gonna look at our books and say, hey, you guys are sitting on 44 million or whatever, so no.
Okay.
Should be totally fine.
Well, but it does, if there is a match requirement for the UDA grant, maybe part of the 44 could be the local match. Just thinking out loud, I don't know.
Yeah, typically they don't let federal
I know,
dollars do federal dollars, but yeah.
We just won't tell them. No, I'm just kidding, just kidding.
So, yeah.
Okay,
And it looks like Copilot is telling me that there may be a match, so we can track that down.
yeah, we can track it down and then figure out how to fill it.
Bring that info back. There been agreement on the Thorpe Road on the house side. As far as our go-to at this point. Any ideas right now on the Senate side, or do you want some more time to give some thought?
This is pure brainstorming. Don't know, haven't talked in depth with Justin. One thought, I don't know if this is appropriate for us, but Maddie's place is trying to set up that housing next door to the current program. Could that somehow be included on our agenda? Maybe it's a letter of support. I don't know if it's our ask or somebody else's. That was one other idea, for purposes of brainstorming, was some kind of and would there be funding for some kind of a transportation project around stars and kind of connecting people from, if they're with law enforcement and they need to ride to get to stars, or somehow getting folks in crisis transportation to the right treatment center. I think there's CAR 50 already exists, but I think it serves just the city. There might be other opportunities. So I don't know if it's the right ask for an earmark or not, but Justin did say there was some needs around that. And I know his department's got a lot going on already, so I don't want to create a burden if it's not the right time, but that's just an idea. So I don't know if we've had a chance to talk in depth with him about that.
And I think as long as it's not operating, it's something that we, you know, sustainability beyond, unless, you know, we couch it as a pilot project, maybe there's something we could do. Definitely some kind of card structure, even if it's like vehicles,
Yeah, I don't know. So that was just an idea.
So I heard last week that Vanessa Behan is looking for funding to support another phase of expansion. And I'm wondering, you know, if you tied Maddie's place into Vanessa Behan, it's all about the kids, small, yeah, you know, maybe there's a nexus there that we might get a twofer out of it.
Maybe we could reach out, find out.
how they work together, how, where infants go, and if it's there
Yeah.
or.
Yeah.
So are we opening up the door to potentially have our ask from one of the senators be supporting an entity that the county supports or commits financial resources to? That's, I mean, I'm not necessarily answer, but if that's something we want to consider.
Well, we've given money to Maddie's place.
But we've been focusing on internal Spokane County projects in our brainstorming. So we want to expand to partners, that just creates a bigger universe to look at.
So what are your brainstorming on interim?
Correct, that's where we've,
But what are
Yeah.
some?
What are some of those? Cause I mean, cause I could see that, I
you
mean-
heard the list, we're struggling on the Senate side.
oh, cause I could see the situation we had, you know, where we talked yesterday about the carpel system and how do we integrate our criminal justice system from a software perspective? That needs to happen. We don't necessarily have the funding to do it. So is that something that we could be doing a request that improves?
We did put an agreement last year for it, aside from the earmarks, was not funded.
Right, that was to Congressman Baumgartner.
And it was a department.
So I don't know through DOJ if there's some kind of grant out there for us to really look at,
I think we could,
because we're getting
Exactly.
critical.
You are correct, it was Baumgartner too.
I think we would really just have to work on our messaging with the senators, because I don't know if that would pop out right away. Although a great project and a huge need. I don't know.
It's trying to keep people out of the system. You know, it's like if we have the system run better, people aren't sitting in jail, they're back out. You know, there's a lot of nexus for both sides to be wanting to come together on it, but I see it that way, but I don't know.
Well, I think if we couch it that way in yeah, great. I mean, as long as we don't see such and such and such, you know, IT or tech or software investment or anything like that.
Yeah.
Where we couch it like you're saying, I think there's definitely a
It'll
possibility
be one-time capital.
Yeah.
to tell that story. Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, did you want to go?
I could just throw out total brainstorming, might be bad ideas. Is there anything in the clean buildings realm that we could kind of frame as like a discrete project that would be, well, that's just one thought, because although maybe we talked about that in the state. Might be better because there's a revenue source for it. That was one thought thing. The other just question, I guess, is there any parks project that may reduce ongoing costs, maintenance or otherwise? Obviously, we got the parks budget and we know what that is. So I'm just thinking, would there be any kind of one-time expense there that might help on the operational front? So
We've talked through those. We haven't seen historical funding of that sort,
yeah,
which has made us think maybe, but it is one that we have brainstormed.
Yeah.
Thinking we have a lot of capital going on right now, because the one time, the turf ball fields and additional things. Plans, you can tie it into youth healthiness, you know, when we're more recent post-COVID about having outdoor spaces. We could certainly put it in. We question internally how successful that might be. Like, I know elected officials are gonna look at it, if I do this one, oh, that's popular, I'm gonna get 1,400 requests from every city across the
Right.
state next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we've had the same idea.
well, this is brainstorming, right?
Yes.
There's no bad idea in brainstorming.
If there was some kind of nexus or partnership with any of the local tribes, I think it would probably be a different conversation. But I don't know exactly what that would look like. And then, of course, yeah, to your point, then the senators would have to justify, yes, I asked for 2 million for, you know, low-income housing project, and you did this instead. So it would probably have some consternation about choosing that over something like that.
Is there anything with George's department, affordable housing, have you checked into them?
I think the only challenge you're gonna have is they're sitting on so much money. And senators know it. However, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities in the Fed bill and housing. Senators love the housing space. So, yes, funding, yes, great place. As long as they don't think about the 44 million, whatever it is we just got. So, you know, and the committee will probably look at that too. As So when you go into subcommittee review, it'll say Spokane County, oh, that sounds familiar, oh, that's right, they just got. Source. But then on the flip side, we could also utilize part of that 44 million to try to fund some of those projects. And then verbally process the issues.
I'm gonna go to Commissioner French next, because he already raised his hand and then.
Well, just
Ran out of time.
And then to follow up on Commissioner Cooney's comment, I mean, if her program were a Campbell project and Maddie's place and Behan was a Murray place, I know Murray is very passionate about young kids and all of that, and so this is really in her wheelhouse in terms of her priorities and Cantwell loves anything that's tech.
Yep.
Kind of a deal, so I mean, that could be a good package, and that way you've got a variety of things that, you know, and they don't overlap with each other.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think Maddie's Place, the senator just toured it last year, absolutely loved it. And then on the tech side, if we can pull in the fentanyl space, if we can have that narrative, she might be all over it, because that's really been one of her really big issue items. So I mean, is that a narrative we can together?
Well, I think we can through that, or there's. Yeah, I think let's talk to the sheriff. You know, the prosecutors, I mean, all of them are gonna see if we can figure out a way that it's. Getting a grant from the federal government to do a project. As we heard yesterday, I think everybody will be more than happy to do that versus everybody will try to do all these different little systems. That doesn't really benefit anybody. Or that's, but you know, it's not looking at it holistically. I think we could come up with the means to do it and to put it on the drug trafficking crisis and, you know, because the longer you take to adjudicate people, the longer the consequences are, the longer they're out there doing it and they don't. If there's no consequence, then they don't care. So, I mean, I think there's a whole nexus, and then we have with what we continue to have.
So just, yeah, if we can have the right narrative, should definitely be. Lots of time. It's fun if we're talking about different organizations to support. Like MCA
Oh,
or different
victim services.
Right. That too.
Yeah.
And then Amber, you wanted to go?
Oh, I was just gonna say that the city of Spokane. Martha Lou just forwarded out the city's federal priority list, so just FYI, we should probably look and see if there's any. Common goals. I noticed that they talk about, we already made one investment into the co-deployed mental health. Public safety teams. Looks like they're gonna be asking for more funding to make those 24/7, so you have mental health. Clinicians going out with Spokane fire police personnel, so something to think about and talk to Justin about.
Yeah,
I know that we gave some funding and I think they've hired the mental health person and they're getting going with expanding that BRU, that behavioral response unit. But anyway, kind of on the same lines as what you were saying around transportation, but this is more of a response. I don't know though, if that's just that might be hard to ask for in a capital ask. So I'm not sure what the city is.
Yeah.
How they're pursuing that. But it's definitely of interest to the county with our investments in mental health and opioid response. So
let's talk about that further offline.
but to your point, like all these little pieces, we need to maybe think about how we're funding more of a system.
Well, in Maddie's Place, I do know is on the city's agenda, legislative.
So if we put together a.
Chris wants to go and then I'm gonna, then we'll cut it off.
On victim services, did you get a chance to reach out to Lutheran?
I am not
Okay,
talking to the three yet, so that's on me.
you need help, let me know.
Should I follow up with you then, once you talk to them?
Yes. Yeah. And then I'll be talking to John, the sheriff and stuff too, so, and now we can talk and figure out how to the project together.
We'll work on a kind of a criminal justice software package, framing it the way we've talked here. Maddie's Place, Vanessa Dehan wraparound package. We'll go forward with the Thorpe Second Gate Fairchild. The house side, we'll put some of the other comments and bullets below, but we'll work out those two packages and look at next time.
Okay.
And then see if that's where you want to land or look at better ideas. Process.
So,
And I'll look at super fund finance, what that looks like. Before we go, one other thing I think we forgot about was the talking to Fairchild about different water infrastructure items. Is that something?
Yeah, Jeff is just now back off vacation.
Okay.
So I'll be circling back with him here the next day or two.
Let's connect and think about, because we could add that to a federal agenda, that's something the board decides.
Yeah.
No, but we did good.
Did committee can, Randy, let's do that.
Would you like Heather and I to go later to?
You guys are,
Heather has another thing later. We need to go over the ERP stuff.
no, let's go over.
Do it later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
thanks, John.
So Heather's gonna pass out of some papers to each of you. You'll recall we moved all of the, not all, we moved a lot of ARP awards to general fund back in December. It's the, put your mind in where we're talking here. And pass these down, please. So the front sheet shows you all of the general fund contracts. Used to be ARP, now general fund. The ones in green are just highlighting the ones that are internal to Spokane County. We're gonna be talking about the 4 in yellow. So when we move the funds, they were kept, they had to keep following all the ARP rules. So the project stayed the same. The timeline stayed the same. Be done by December 31st, 2026. We were able to give them flexibility. If they were still in ARP, if you underspent on your A&E, you couldn't move it to another part of the project. You had to return the remaining A&E line. So the flexibility would be, it could, if you had 100,000 left in A&E, you can move it to construction. So we're able to do some flexibility within that one budget scope. And it protected us that if our third party awardees did not get the funds spent, we had spent the ARP funds on other purposes that were lawfully allowed. So any unremaining spent funds would drop into the general fund instead of being returned. So we have the 4 in yellow have now requested some variances to what were the ARP rules to begin with. The timeline and the projects. So you'll see on page 2, one of them is Innovia. They were originally awarded 5 million. 3.7 was moved to ARP. They currently have, you'll see in red, 2.9 remaining. They are not asking for any flexibility changes. They're asking for a 2-year extension to have until 2028 instead of 2026. Moving to the next page, which is Campfire. They have done a lot of their. They spend about half the money on their project, all capital, being 100% capital. Cool project, it's a good fit. They are now asking to use their remaining 72,600. So you see in red for operations. So more salaries, ongoing costs versus what was a capital award. Feast is similar. You'll see more salary and benefits on theirs. They they had bought a building, were moving in, and then the fire code. They ended up in an unfortunate situation. They had to kind of change their model where they were hiring people to teach training. So that's why they have more salary and benefits. So when they moved over, there was gonna be capital again. And they're now asking to put their remaining in salary and benefits, 2,400. The town of Rockford is capital to capital. They completed their capital project. They had money left over. They would like to use their remaining $41,000 on a different infrastructure project, went from sewer to water. So that is their request. They did complete their original project. It just came in as the budget. So those are the requests. They are certainly within your guys' purview to say yes or no. This is now general fund money. We're no longer under the ARP rules. Couple obvious things we point out, the 17 that are not color coded. So I'm asking for all kinds of flexibility. Can handle that. We have to. We did take some funds back in December from groups because we had told them no flexibility. So there could be some equity issues.
Explain that. Say that one more time.
In December, the decision was made that if you were not going to be using the funds as awarded, and we had to make that decision at that time. Because if I awarded you funds and then we changed them, and then we scored them, maybe Heather was the first group who did not receive funds. And if you change your scope of work, she might have scored higher, you scored lower. So we didn't have that choice per se in December because it could have altered the process all the way back to the original awarding. But we did about 700,000 of funds that were brought back from the Y, from Visit Spokane, from Frame Your Future, from Women and Children's Kitchen. Came back under that. So we've been gathering these requests, and a couple of the groups at a point now, they just need to know the decision so they can plan accordingly.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm the one who brought all this forward because I had Carrie, the mayor of Rockford, call me on her project. And to me, it seems like it's still a use of using those funds on funds that they wouldn't have access to. You know, so I'm happy to move forward with moving that, the water project that just is, they were doing a sewer project and they wanted to add a water line. And so letting them do that, because these little towns don't have funds that come up, and so that's part of what ARP was supposed to be helping them with, and so. Since they were under budget on the sewer, it seems like, you know, and now that we've moved this into general fund, so it allows for that little bit of flexibility. That I'm happy with moving it to that, to let them finish that project and get it done before the end of the year, since they're in season right now. So then Jeff and I, we talked about these others, and Innovia, I knew that they wanted to come back and extend the timeline, and I think again, they're doing everything they said they were gonna do, just extend the timeline so they're not feeling like they're forced just to spend money to spend money. Cause I mean, I think we're gonna see that with PDA, you know, Northeast PDA, you don't wanna just spend the money to spend the money. When there's. I like it,
PDA has specific projects they're spending that money on.
right, and so does Innovia. But if you're gonna try to shorten the timeline, it's gonna just force it sooner to then not be doing all the things they're trying to do for the development and getting kids into college. Training. So
Is the PDA at risk at not meeting their projects on time?
I think I saw that, you know, like Newman Lake still has $500,000.
There's a lot of people that there's
There's a lot.
this is a
Contractor issue. What's that? Issue with the signs.
So we now have the ability to delay it and not have
Yeah.
to spend it by the end of the year. So we're just I'm just wanting to allow people to continue with their normal contract, but allow the timeline to extend.
2 years is pretty, that's a pretty big time for, I mean, I'm sure for in your future, had they known they could ask to go to 28, probably wouldn't have returned the what, 300,000 bucks? You know, visit Spokane, maybe had they been given an extra 2 years to spend the money, probably would have spent the money, hung on to it and spent it too. We've done a lot, I think, for Inovia to try with this Launch Northwest, and I mean, what's happened? I mean, I truly, that is an honest question.
Okay.
Where does it go? And it keeps changing sort of the mission. Originally, it was any kid that graduates college and from a Spokane County high school, whatever scholarships they could get, that gap would be filled by Inovia. They've completely moved away from that. Now it's hooking them up with social programs, connecting their families with what other government programs are out there, right?
That was all part of the original part of what
Yes.
we were funding was the connection and early intervention programming. The scholarships was Inovia's separate because we can't give scholarships.
Correct.
So as they've raised funds for it, a lot of them are endowment or are, based on when people pass, then those funds will go into Inovia. So they've had to adjust some of that. So it's just things that they're adjusting as they go, as they develop the program. It's still a really good program.
Not saying it's not, I'm just saying the mission has changed, I think, as it's progressed and we've.
I think it's changed since it's,
Okay,
I mean, I don't see that the mission has changed at all.
okay.
So I think that's the, even, Jeff is saying it, it's still the same. We're not changing any of that. We're just asking for an extension on the timeline. A lot of other organizations were asking for more operations dollars, but I mean, that wasn't the intent of what we were doing at that point in time.
So we've told a lot of folks no salaries and benefits, right?
That was a
Original.
standard we made some exceptions along the way for groups like Adobe where people were doing the work. But generally, if it wasn't a program with people doing the work, we limited them to 20% of their award to go to staffing operation.
But we gave additional flexibility to Inovia
Correct.
that wasn't given to other individuals.
Correct.
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
yeah.
And then Inovia, the other thing that they're doing is they spent down early because we were the only ones who did this whole swap on general fund. So they were spending down the other dollars earlier than our dollars.
Could you make the argument that we gave them more money than we should have in that initial 5 million?
I don't think so.
But they're asking for 2 more years to spend it.
Yeah.
So I think we did give them too much money. I mean, and they asked us for even more, didn't they? Wasn't their original ask to the county more than 5 million?
I think the original comments were for more. I believe the ask came in at 5, because I think they realized that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna suggest it. I recently met with Family Promise and Launch Northwest Director Ben Small. Because I was interested in like, what is the data around the housing stability that's happening with families so that kids can graduate ready to take on college or other post-secondary opportunities. And I think he told me that there is some data that's coming out. Would it be possible to get like a report or something that looks at how successful it's been the last 2 years? We could look at that, because I have heard that more students are applying for the FAFSA, more students are getting support to go to college, or to go into training programs. So I would love to see that. I don't know if they've released a report yet.
Well, the Engage in Real Life initiative has been a huge project at Launch Northwest. So there's after school program connections, there's mentoring, there's scholarships, there's FAFSA. We got a presentation from Ben not too long ago. I don't know how, 4 months, whenever he was here. He came to talk to us. I don't know the exact time frame, but he shared good data at that time. And the feedback from the board was, this is really great work. So I think it's incumbent on them to continue sharing that, so I think either commissioner committee or I could reach out and get the latest data. It's a valid question. But I don't think there's any question they're doing good work. So. That's my comment.
So the easy look for me is the town of Rockford. I agree, you know,
Thumbs up.
whether it's sewer or water, anything that flows, I'm okay with. The the one thing that I am challenged by, and I can get over it, but I'm challenged by it right now, is we did say, you know, we prefer capping the salary and benefits to 20%. And then I see the feast request is asking for another 82,000 for salary and benefits when they already spent 198,000 in salary and benefits. And it seems like just about all that money is going to salary and benefits, which I understand with the food bank, maybe that's all you've got, but does that then set a precedent for dealing with some of these others that are looking for increases in salaries and benefits? Big support of the campfire effort, but even their request is 72,000 for salaries and benefits and stuff, and so. How do we maintain consistency? And for those that we turned away, how do we go back and say, well, you know what, we changed our mind? Kind of a deal. It just, you know, if those were the rules starting out, what's the justification for changing the rules? And I'm having difficulty with that one.
There's a real equity debate to be had. Thankfully, it's yours, not ours. We will implement. However, but I think we're way over on time. I did see 3 thumbs for Rockford. That's the only one that's kind of timely as far as getting the work done. Would you like us to come back another day to finish this conversation?
Kidding.
Just throwing it out there.
Kidding, I'm just kidding.
Could I'm a little confused on the numbers, so the budget for feast says 82,000, but then when I go to the page. It's like 307,000.
That's the remaining budget.
So the
It's
way
just a little
this,
confusing.
this first sheet is set up out of workday. So the 82,000 is what was left on their award when we moved into workday.
Okay,
So it's in a supplier contract. That's why it's in the encumbered line,
okay.
but actual expenses, no expenses have been submitted in 2025 to date.
So were the $82,000 supposed to be spent on capital upgrades?
Campfire's original award was to fill in a pool and
Right.
make it into a splash pad. That turned out to be a challenge for a lot of different reasons, so we let them change it to fixing the pool and get it back and going. So that was all a water feature for kids at the camp, kind of same scope. They have done that. They have bought a new pool cover. They've done a lot of refinishing. We let them charge maintenance of the pool for the capital side. We had to deny a lot of bills with that because they've been trying to include operational costs around the pool beyond capital.
The pool has been.
The pool is
fixed.
up and going, it's
Great.
fixed, it's being used. So in that regard, their scope of work, while altered from splash pad to pool, is completed. They are asking for flexibility to use the remaining funds on the operation side.
Sorry, I just needed to clarify that, but yeah, I'll look into it more, I'll ask more questions, but happy to move forward on the Rockford, definitely.
And I think other than the ones of a contract that, based on what the contracts were, when we contracted for capital and they're switching it to operations, that's not a valid use. And in my mind, and it would have come back. Now, we have more flexibility because of the fact that we moved it into the general fund, and so now we have more flexibility to make those decisions, but I think when the end of the year hit, everything was being kept, we couldn't take everything back into the general fund, and so everything was kept at what the airtime was allowed. Okay, thank you
We done for today?
for today.
We will move forward with Rockford. If you like.
Rose, that takes us to you. Sorry, we're running late.
No, it's okay.
Doug was already in the chair.
Oh, Doug, we're running really late on time.
Oh, perfect.
I'm gonna be quick since you're running late and you have executive session and all of that good stuff. I have quite a few slides in this presentation that you already received. I'm not gonna go through all of them. There's just a few I want to touch on and then I want to give 2 verbal updates. But before I start, I just want to say congrats on the State of the County. It was a great event, sold out. Mary did a nice job speaking. It's good to see all that data and have everybody there excited. So, you know, happens once a year. Just want to give you some props. Okay, cool. We can go to the next slide here. We're going to talk about just some Q2 numbers. So this is one slide I definitely wanted you to look at. It kind of gives a little bit of insight on how we're dealing with conventions in today's market. With, I guess, really the main indicator of kind of how we're watching some of the trends. Some of the federal kind of changes that are happening with the administration are essentially impacting potential funding to groups that may come to Spokane, and they're taking a little bit longer before they sign a contract. So no one has canceled, no one is saying they're not coming, but we're sitting in the contracting phase a little bit longer. So all these numbers here just to tell you that we have a total goal of 20,000 for Q2, and we achieved 83% of that at around 16,000 total room nights were signed and contracted in Q2. So obviously that's a B. We would love to be in the A range, if not 100%. But we're doing what we can to be creative. I can tell you that right now the state market is sustaining our night goals. So the thing about the state market is we love it, but it doesn't, the funnel isn't as long. So we can only tap into state agencies that want to be in Spokane. Essentially, they like to rotate between east side, west side, and we can contract out for future years, but you continue to push that further and further, and then we just kind of tap out until they're ready to continue to sign contracts. We'll go to the next slide. That said, the Q3 pipeline, oh, go ahead.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Number of site visits has dropped off pretty substantially.
Oh,
What-
yes.
What is that?
Yeah, so that is twofold. One, we are being a little bit more intentional on who we're bringing into town and the business that's attached to them. It's very expensive for us to do a site visit, so we're saving some dollars to bring in the top tier 1,000 room or more meeting planners attached to those groups so that we're essentially getting more for our dollar that we spend. So we're limiting who we're bringing in. We're also limiting, no longer are we bringing our remote salespeople into the destination as much. We are tackling that with people, with our team that is here on the ground. So we're saving some costs on flights and hotels for the remote team. And then the other part of that, Al, is that we are a site visit, we can offer site visits and they're not always taken. They're not always, and that doesn't mean that they won't sign a contract. It's just sometimes people aren't willing to travel to the destination and they're ready to sign the contract even if they haven't seen it in person.
Is there any linkage between that and the generated definite room nights? Because that's dropped off too.
Definitely.
Also,
Yeah, so for us, as much as we can bring a important meeting planner to town, we want to. Spokane is a destination you don't have to do business in, you have to choose to do business here. And just like myself, when I landed in the role, seeing the destination and how everything is in such a tight footprint, really helps us seal the deal. So yeah, I think it does kind of impact, it certainly does impact. Our closing ratio is higher when we bring them into town.
okay. Thank you.
The next slide here, the pipeline. So what we have for Q3 and Q3 is finalizing at the time of this report, we had 22,000 or just under 23,000 that were in contracting. They haven't signed the deal yet, but they were in contracting. We have, I believe we've cut that in half. We've signed at least 12,000 in the last couple months, which is great. But and that doesn't mean that the rest of the remaining part of the 23 are not going to get signed. It's just, like I noted, we're kind of in 10-day mode. It's kind of taking a little bit longer for people to make decisions.
a lot of these groups are for future years out, so they have some time. Of course, we try to get them to sign as quick as possible, but it's all dependent on when their boards meet and when they absolutely need to ink that deal. We go through the next. I'm gonna kind of skip through this one and we'll go to the next. I want to go to the FIFA slide. Keep going. Here we go, FIFA fan zone. So I thought I'd give you an update on what we know, which is still not everything. But we are working, as you know, we've been designated the fan zone site. We're one of I think 12 sites across the state. And we also have been designated a base camp. Visit Spokane, myself, I was really involved in trying to get that base camp to happen. Super excited that we were chosen by FIFA to be a base camp. What that means is a team still needs to choose us, and a team could not choose us. So December 5th is when we will find out what teams are playing where in the FIFA competition. I'm not a soccer, I don't know a lot about soccer, so I don't know how to use these terms, but we will find out who's in the tournament, I guess, the FIFA tournament, and there still will be some TBDs based on the rankings of how the teams lie. But essentially, we'll look at the Seattle and Vancouver market, and we'll see potentially those could be a team that chooses Spokane as a base camp due to the proximity of where the games are. So certainly somebody that's playing in Miami, they're probably not going to choose Spokane as their base camp because that would be a long flight and nowhere near to where they would want to be shuttling for practice. So we will kind of keep our eyes on those teams as they get announced. Anywhere between December 5th and mid-February is when we could be chosen. So a team could not choose us until all the way into February, and they could choose us right away and say, we want to lock in a deal.
In fact, we may not get a team at all.
We may not get a team at all, correct? We're
So-
hoping.
So there's
And I know Matt,
12
you're part of it.
12 sites just in Washington?
Fan zones, not base camps.
Oh,
Yeah, we're the
okay,
only, outside of Seattle, we're the only base camp.
okay,
Yeah, and Vancouver has a base camp. Vancouver's having matches and they have some as well. And
Okay.
Portland also has base camps.
okay.
The fan zones,
We have our resident committee member, Matt.
Oh, yeah, I've participated in some of those fan zone.
okay, so you're on the.
Any
calls.
soccer specific questions, I'm ready to answer.
Okay, so we can direct all that.
What's FIFA?
What's FIFA?
Soccer.
I could, so we're working with our friends and partners at Spokane Sports to help execute a fan zone celebration. City of Spokane is really interested in this as well. It's Administrator Alex Scott. We've been meeting with him. Myself, Ashley Blake from Spokane Sports Commission, and Alex have been coordinating some meetings. We are, we've all signed the NDAs that I'm sure maybe you've also signed with the FIFA committees out of Seattle to get some things rolling. I want to kind of make sure everybody has a realistic expectation of how many fans will be coming to Spokane for FIFA. With the fan zone, we are looking at two models of events. We're looking at Expo 50 and how we kind of handled Expo 50 promotions, which was a very, we wanted to get as many visitors as possible. We saw a lot of community engagement though, a lot of community presence. And then we're looking at how we handle NCAA and getting visitors in to come see NCAA games, but sending those people to partners around the city and not just getting them separate. So right now we're looking at hosting 1 to 3 watch parties at the USL Spokane One Stadium. We initially were talking about doing a fan zone at the podium or at the pavilion, I'm sorry, but the infrastructure of the stadium allows us to save on costs because it's already built out in there. We have all the screening, security, all of that. So we'll obviously work with the Public Facilities District to make sure that's handled. Spokane Sports is handling all the operations and logistics of the fan zone, and Visit Spokane will handle all of the marketing, public relations, and partner connects for the fan zone. That is how we've shaken out the deal there. I think we can go to the next slide. You can go one more. Okay, so the fan zone will be the official watch party. It will have all of the official branding and sponsorships. We will have streaming rights. There'll be anybody that is interested in soccer and collecting FIFA, specific branded things will be at the fan zone and nowhere else in the county. So you'll have to come to the fan zone to have those experiences. We are looking to activate the pedestrian path from Gonzaga University, which would be Centennial Trail, to the stadium. This is important because if we are chosen or a practice team, they will be practicing at Gonzaga. So we want to have some opportunities to get them to get fans to watch the practice team and over to the actual fan zone. We're having conversations with youth sports. That is more so on Ashley's side. Outside of a city meeting that did happen where we had quite a few sports organizations there, but we're kind of leaving that up to Ashley and her team as they're connected and that's their lane. We know that there's been beer garden regulations lifted for FIFA, and the city really wants to take advantage of having a beer garden in the park or some sort of path to the stadium. So we're looking into that. We are working on a curated app with the Seattle FIFA partners. Are specifically Visit Spokane. We have submitted 12 essential stops in the city that a person can go to and play an interactive game for an app on the app and win prizes, both FIFA branded prizes as well as Visit Spokane will have some staycation scenarios. And we can't officially say it, but just to let you all know, it'll be labeled something like the ultimate soccer fan experience. They will be giving away tickets to FIFA game, an actual FIFA game, which is a pretty big deal considering those are pretty pricey and kind of hard to come by if you don't get them a certain time. So more on that when it comes, we have already started that process. And then really, we can go to the next slide here. So just really quick to touch on this, we're working to make sure that local businesses can leverage everything that we're doing. We have sent a sponsorship list off to FIFA. They have to approve anybody that can be an official sponsor of the fan zone. There's no funding for the fan zone for us to execute, and we're not asking you for money, but Visit Spokane and Spokane Sparks are looking at their general funds and how we can be creative with the dollars that we have. I've also had a really good conversation with STA about supporting some marketing efforts, and I thought you might find this interesting. STA is excited to work with us. Essentially, they will utilize our channels to get out some of the community promotions about the fan zone. And we're gonna work with them to make sure we're talking about routes to and from any youth workshops that may happen and businesses that might be activated outside of the fan zone, and really give some nice presence on our social media and our website. We're building a microsite as well as some small digital placement in the community that will have STA branding on top of that. So it should be really cool and be a nice bump in engagement for them as well. The last thing would be in terms of timeline, like I noted, we might not have a team that chooses us. We might not know till February. The games don't actually start until June. You'll see much more community partnership communications coming out of our office in the coming month, end of next month and leading into the new year. And then it will really ramp up in February. The games that we're looking at having an official watch party for will be June 19th, which is the US men's team will be playing in Seattle. We know that for sure. And then I believe June 25th and July, it's like the first week of July. So 3 games kind of bam, 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 back to back where we will have an official watch zone. The remaining games that will be played, we've asked FIFA to approve that we can have unofficial soccer fan parties at surrounding businesses that might want to join, such as No Lie, who has a great patio and sport experience and really wants to be involved. We're just working through some of the logistics. No Lie is a great beer. We love No Lie, but the official beer sponsor of FIFA is Budweiser. So it's like, are they gonna allow local craft breweries to participate? We'll see. Any questions on that?
So if a team picks Spokane, does that mean they'll be practicing here? Will they
Yes.
have exhibition games
They'll be
or?
practicing.
Okay,
So they'll be practicing and we do know the official hotel that FIFA chose. We pushed quite a few hotels that met all the standards.
Yeah.
And they did choose Northern Quest. Northern Quest Hotel. So they would be staying in Airway Heights and they would be shuttling over to Gonzaga, practicing at Gonzaga. Practices could be open for fans to watch if the team allows. We might also have a team that says we don't want anybody watching us.
Okay.
Also dependent on the team, I'll just use a team, Puerto Rico, I'm sure they have a soccer team, right? if it's Puerto Rico, then we will shift some of our messaging to make sure that we are encouraging any potential Puerto Rican visitors to come and have some things for them to meet and see. Talking with like DSP about, can we have some sort of watch party or certain bar that's designated to welcoming countries based on what we have.
Okay.
So we're still kind of in the waiting mode.
Okay, if we don't get a team, where's the next closest fan zone to Spokane?
Fan zone, quite a few on the west side. I think Tri-Cities might have a fan zone.
Okay.
So yeah, but a fan zone would also just be a watch party. No
Yeah,
one-
and that's what I'm thinking. I mean,
Yeah.
if the nearest, if all the other 11 fan zones are in Western Washington, you know, then it's like, okay, are we the Eastern Washington hub where if someone wanted to come to Washington, but I mean, if you're from Tri-Cities, you're probably not gonna come to Spokane if there's a fan zone in Tri-Cities,
Right.
but so I guess that how dispersed are they in Eastern Washington?
Eastern, I'm pretty sure Tri-Cities and Spokane are the only ones.
Okay.
But I will, that's why when I mentioned, we're really trying to model off of some of the expo promotions and level set the idea that hundreds of thousands of visitors are gonna come to Spokane to watch the game on a TV in the stadium. It's probably not likely. Of course, we would hope that we get some visitation, but we're not gonna be spending a lot of dollars outside of a small driving range to get people to be aware of Spokane.
Okay.
Yeah, for that specific event.
Okay.
I will say Washington's the only state in the United States that is doing the fan zone model, and they've really FIFA enjoys it. We're also the only state that has a tribe sponsoring the official FIFA event, and FIFA is really excited about that. And the FIFA official people that are choosing base camps, we're very impressed with Spokane's pitch to pick us. They said it was her favorite, so that's pretty cool. At least we've impressed them in a few ways here. All right, we can, I think, scroll through the next. Keep going here. I'll talk about the second. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Not gonna go through all these. We have a long meeting. All right, keep going there. All right, we'll stop on this. Want to talk briefly about Liberty Lake. We have some really fun things happening in Liberty Lake that we are working on helping them to promote. So we've done a lot of photo and video asset collection and have some really fun campaigns that are launching now. Did a full restaurant, food and dining scene. I also want to point your attention to the top photo on this is the Saltese Flats, which is actually in Spokane Valley. It's right on the border. And we were able to work that into video and photo assets, even though the valley is not with us.
You know
It's
who
the
owns,
county
you know
property.
who owns that facility? Yeah, I was.
County property. So.
You can highlight it to us.
So we did a bunch of cool fly arounds and drone footage. That's a beautiful property. We'll get back out there in the spring when it's a little bit more wetland, but yeah, if you haven't been there, this is an amazing property to go visit. If you're getting into birding like me, definitely go there. So we're doing some fun stuff at Liberty Lake and we have a campaign launching, it's called Escape to Liberty Lake. So we're recognizing people coming into Spokane or flying into Spokane. We want them to make sure they're exploring all the county. And we did ask Liberty Lake for additional lodging tax dollars. They did give us some, so we're executing it specifically for them out of those dollars. And once we have our polished report, I'll just email that all to all for your own interest. And I think you can scroll through to the end here. So I'll just give a couple other verbal updates and then we'll move on. Two things, just want you to keep you kind of posted on with the state. So we have the TPA sunset, which I believe you're all familiar with, the tourism promotion assessment. We are able to collect above $2. So originally when the TPA was installed, we could put a $2 fee on every hotel room that has 40 rooms or more in the county. In 2021, we were able to lobby to get that to be anywhere from $3 to $4 to $5. Spokane went to the industry and they approved $4. And then when I came in 23, I was like, why do we stop at $4? Let's go to $5. We reopened the petition. We got the industry to agree to $5 assessment. But the $3, $4, and $5 assessment, that actually sunsets in July of 27. Everyone that is above $2 in the state is required to send a report into the state by January 1st of 2026 and explaining the use of these dollars, what we were able to do, and in our mind, we also are asking them to indefinitely keep the extension. So Ashley with Spokane Sports and myself, we're working together to make sure we have coordinated reporting for the how we're spending the TPA dollars. And then I sit on the WSDMO State Destination Management Organization Board of Directors, and we're working as a state to have a unified state reporting. So working with a third party to create report language, and then all the destinations, which there's only a handful of them that actually tried to go above $2. We will plug in our numbers based on what they are. Spokane is at the highest at $5, and I think the next highest is $3 that people are at. So why is this important for you all to know? One, this is an industry approved assessment. It doesn't hit the state treasury at all, which is great considering that everyone's in deficit budgets. And we will be asking the state in the 26 legislation to indefinitely extend and keep the $5. If we have to revert back to $2, it's gonna be a significant blow to funding that Visit Spokane and Spokane Sports receives. Quite a bit of money actually to go from 5 to 2. So in any way that you can or are interested in learning more and supporting it from a personal standpoint in a letter of support or as a commission, that would be great. I'm happy to send you more information beyond just the verbal update. We are working with the Spokane Hotel Motel Association for a letter of support. And I will be meeting with our local senators and reps as well to make sure they're aware. So that's the first part of the state coming up. The second part is there is a statewide effort through the Washington State Tourism, which is a separate 501c3(6). You may or may not remember the state got rid of the tourism department in 2014, and now it's its own entity. They receive a $1.5 million funding every year. That is not enough. That is number 49 out of the United States. It's ranked 49 for a state budget. It's pretty sad, which means we have no necessarily unified state funding programming for Spokane to tap into in any way. We would like to see the state funding be more. The state is moving to a industry approved assessment statewide, where they have had lots of conversation for the last couple of years with hospitality focused business to support the idea of an additional assessment, which would put the state at a $21 to $28 million budget, which moves us up into like a 20 is still not very high. Just to give you a perspective, Oregon's state budget is $40 million. So we passed the first leg of the state TID law this year. The second leg will come in the 2026 session. Both the state TID and the local TPA are different but equally as important. We are not combining them together. They are two separate things, but Visit Spokane is supporting both. We have asked GSI to add them both to their legislation. We'll see if we can get that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that those will be in the midst, and I'm happy to provide much more documentation as we get closer to the date, including the report that we are preparing with our local TPA dollars, so you understand how important that is for us. Before we know it, it'll be February and this will be on the docket. So I'm just kind of trying to give you a heads up. Nothing for you to do here other than be curious and ask questions. Any questions?
I had a question when I looked at one of your final slides here. It lists sort of all the different things. I mean, you guys do so much to promote folks coming to the region. I just one of them is agritourism promotions. Can you tell us some of the things you've done in that realm?
Yeah, so we work we work Green Bluff, your area up there, which we love and I personally love. We work to promote all the growers there. We utilize and house their tour and trail on our system and on our site. All of that's worked into our baseline promotion for our website, social media and such. We also continually bring travel writers out to go up and experience the agritourism options. So it's more on the experience-based side of how an individual can come to our area and be on a farm and buy, food that's grown here, product that's grown here and enjoy it. We are working more now with some of the South Palouse or Palouse Highway. There's some growers in that area. One in particular, Barn and Blossom, is a great new experience that has Thursday night or Wednesday night live music, food trucks, farm. You can shop all of their plants. So we're working on we would like to do more of that. I actually applied for a state grant last year and didn't receive to do more agritourism efforts, but it's just making sure everyone's aware. So it's kind of like an awareness mode now. We'd like to build out more trail systems and experiences on our website, just pending.
Thank you.
We're in the thick of it. We're like heading towards it now though with Green Bluff. Happy fall, by the way. It's like-
Magical place.
It
For
is.
all of our viewers who haven't visited Green Bluff before, it's North Carolina. It's amazing.
It is amazing and it's there's a lot of fun stuff that happens. You don't want to get stuck in the traffic jam, so you gotta get there early.
Get there.
But it's great. I mean, it's beautiful, so love it.
We'll go during the week.
Or go during the week. They're definitely open midweek.
They are.
Pumpkin donuts are calling.
Pumpkin donuts.
Apple cider. Absolutely. Great. Yeah, the last slide, and I'll leave with this, the last slide, I throw it on all of my presentation. It talks about all the segments that we kind of cover in our tourism promotion. So everything from agritourism to, obviously, we work with conventions, we talk about restaurants, but those smaller lines there, you know, we do even sports marketing. We don't recruit sporting events to the destination. That's where Spokane Sports thrives. But when NCAA is here, we have promotions around that. Bloomsday, we talk about 50th anniversary of Bloomsday is coming up, big deal next year. Any sort of outdoor adventure. New this year, we have a ski campaign that we are activating. We had some really great conversations with all 5 mountains, including the ones, you know, in Idaho. So we are continually talking about all these things. It doesn't mean that we are the solver of all these things, but we are promoting these things as they happen, and we're really excited to be the official designated official visitors bureau for the county and the city of Spokane. Cool. All right, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. You guys are doing lots of great work.
Thank you. I think I might pop out now unless there's any other people I might have to stay. Okay.
Okay. Next up takes us to Vicki Dalton, Auditor Dalton. Thank you. Sorry, we're just running a little late this morning.
It's okay. Well, good morning. So I am here with a resolution to dissolve the Spokane County Sheriff's MSH2 Advanced Travel Account, an event that I have been waiting for 27
You
years.
listening, Kevin?
Not excited.
Yeah.
Oh, it was mildly popular within my age.
Yes. So one of the reasons that we're able to do this is now with Black Day, we can do limited travel advances. And so in talking with Sheriff Knowles, what we came up with is we will do per diem advances for travelers whose travel is in excess of 2 weeks. So that'll take care of folks going to any long-term training. And we've already had a couple people do that. We'll also be able to do this for detention. So I'm talking to Don Hooper about that. So for the rest of the county, we did away with travel advances a very long time ago.
So we received a travel advancement.
You know, I don't exactly remember when we did away with
Yeah,
travel
long
advance.
time
It
ago.
might have been around 2010 to 2012, somewhere in that time range.
So see, I was thinking it might have been 2015. I think I remember being there here.
It's
Did
been a
away with
while.
them. Yeah. So.
Yep, so this will be just for those folks who do need a large wad of cash. As they will not be provided meals at whatever event they're going to. Scoop. Any questions?
You said it's for trips that are longer than 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is just a lot of like training to go over.
Training, I
So
assume.
we have an individual who's been on the east side of the country for 2 months, you know, that type of thing, for the firearms forensic examiner's class.
And we have a traveler. And we have a traveler who is going to get their new K9.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we excited.
So just for the sheriff's office, you're looking at doing it with detention services. But
Yeah, those are the primary ones, but if there are other travelers who are gonna be in excess of 2 weeks, that's really who we're aiming for.
And they just go to the department heads.
Yeah,
And
and it's done
actors.
right on the spend authorization, which is the travel authorization form. So the department head signs it, and then either Tim or I sign on our travel advance.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Okay, go back to all my other headaches.
Okay, that takes us to Kevin.
Good morning, just have a couple quick things. One of our canines, K9 Yeager is the name, is due to retire because of health reasons. I'm not exactly sure what the health reasons are. It has something to do with his blood, and when he gets excited, there's a hormone that is released into the system that it causes disruptions in his organs or something like that. So he cannot do full-time work anymore, so he's going to be retired, and I just have a letter authorizing him to be released to his handler, which is Deputy Amber. For that process.
You're using retiring these days instead, it used to be public work. It was like it was being killed. I don't know.
Euthanasia.
No, it wasn't
No.
that, but it was like. No, it wasn't.
What do we do to
Like,
Decommissioned or, what was the old word?
The old word was like, you thought that they were gonna, like,
I
so it wasn't retiring the dog. So.
What are the
yes.
benefits for retiring canine?
They don't have any left to benefits, I can tell you that. They get to live a life of luxury at their canine handler's house and not have to go to work and to hang out all day with the other dogs.
Volunteer?
Yeah, pretty much. They get to live the life of luxury that most pets get to live.
Yeah.
To a farm.
And she does live on a farm, so
Oh, well,
it's not gonna be a bad life, so.
If Jaeger wants to visit us at our 2 o'clock when we adopt that, we wouldn't be opposed
Will
to
that
it.
be next Monday or?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, I'll let her know.
We love dogs
Yeah.
on this board.
Jaeger's neat and
She bring her handler too if she wants.
Jaeger's neat dogs.
Great.
The second thing I have is the WASPIC MHFR award, which is our mental health co-responder award that we have been getting for the last 7 years. If you remember, this one was WASPIC cut the funding quite a bit. And so this award for the next 2 years will cover essentially the clinicians who are the co-responders with the deputies in the car. We will have 2, thanks to the board, funneling some opioid dollars to the sheriff's office. We will have 2 units downtown and 2 in the valley. So we'll have a total of 4 co-responder, which is an increase from the last few years of 1 co-responder unit. So I think the program is growing, which is a good thing. So this is just the accepting of the contract from WASPIC. It took a little while. It's been going since July, but they fell behind on their contracts. It took a long time for them to get us the actual contracts.
Okay. I may ask offline, because I'm just trying to understand how much they're providing versus how much we're providing out of mental health.
This
Or opioid settlement dollars, and then how much that's, because our opioid settlement dollars are the counties, not the
Yes.
city of Spokane Valleys, and so how much the city of Spokane Valley is.
the city of Spokane Valley is funding the deputies and their equipment 100%
Okay,
themselves. The opioid dollars are funding the downtown. I say downtown, the unincorporated deputies, so both of them and their vehicles for this year, and the next year there won't be any vehicle expense, obviously. And then this money is funding our subcontractor, which is Frontier Behavioral Health, for their employees to come by. So
okay,
the county, the only thing the opioid funds are paying for is the 2 downtown positions, 2 unincorporated positions. And then
Okay.
the valley is covering their expenses. That this covers the 4 co-responders for all 4 conditions.
Okay, thank you. Makes a lot more sense.
It is becoming increasingly more complicated. It used to be a lot less complicated.
Yes. Okay. Any questions? Great stuff. Should get clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for hanging with us.
No problem.
Okay. That's gonna take us to Doug.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Jonathan Smith, our planning and real estate manager, and we have a win-win opportunity to provide temporary use of the existing access road to one of our neighbors that could be reciprocated down the road. Jonathan has put together a brief little presentation on this.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners. Like Doug said, we have an opportunity to provide access to Inland Empire Paper for a timber harvest on property that they own that's just east of the Mica Peak Conservation Area. Mica Peak Conservation Area is about 1,790 acres located just west and south of Liberty Lake Regional Park. It was purchased in 2 phases, one in 2013, one in 2018. The property that was purchased in 2018 is the one in question. There's Forest Road on that property that is being used to being requested of. Next slide, please. This road travels through the Mica Peak Conservation Area and connects to the Mica Peak Radar Site Road on one side, and on the other side, the continuation of the Forest Road that goes into the IEP property that is going to be harvested. The length of the road is about three quarters of a mile or 3,900 feet, and they're requesting use of this road to haul out timber harvest. Next slide, please. Like I said, this request is to aid IEP's commercial timber harvest. We see this as a win-win on IEP side. It provides an easier route of extraction. On the county side, on the county side, IEP has promised to not improve, but maintain the forest road to the Washington State Forest Practices Standards, and also to do some forest fire fuel mitigations around or on either side of the access road. Next slide, please. These are some pictures of the road. You can see this road. I don't know when it was last used for harvest extraction, but it is still in very good shape. So the maintenance of the road will be probably grading and also ensuring that any of the stormwater culverts, everything's shedding properly. There's no ponding or erosion going to happen because of this activity. IEP will grade the road and maintain the road on the front end for their use, and then after they're done with their use, they will go through and they will do that activity one more time. Next slide, please. So in consideration of this request, we ask you to consider it and authorize the chair of the board to execute this agreement with IEP, and we will bring a resolution to you for next week's legislative meeting. And if you have any questions, I'll answer those now.
Any questions?
Oh, did you have one?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, and you're saying that they're gonna essentially they're gonna cut in a road and grade that. Does that create any ongoing expense for the Parks Department now that we will have an access road cut in?
No, the road is already existing,
Okay.
so they're going to likely enhance it. Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is an existing road. It's a road that this property was previously owned by IEP. So this is a road they've used for the same purpose before. They're simply, it's been years since they've used it for this purpose, so they're going to bring that back up to, you know, standards that need to be to use this road for that purpose. And then afterwards, they're gonna make sure it stays at that same quality.
Okay, so no ongoing expense to the county.
No,
integrated to
in
this.
fact, it actually does some work that we may need to do, that it's taking the place of work we may need to do to, you know, to maintain that road.
And it is utilized currently for non-motorized recreation and this should provide it in as good or a certain condition that it is now. So it should actually save us some maintenance.
Chris, is there a time frame of the access?
There is, it's going to be from the time of the execution of this agreement to the end of November 31st. So it's a pretty short window. And just a couple months now.
So following up on, folks can use that right now, that road to, you know, hike through the property. But you're saying it hasn't been really maintained. This will, in essence, maintain it to be it really hasn't been
We would
updated, is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
it hasn't really been updated. I think we utilize it on occasion and there's value in retaining it for maintenance purposes, as Jonathan
For
mentioned.
your vehicles as
Should
well.
we periodically do forest management, fuels reduction work, that type of thing. So I think we see value in retaining the road in its current condition, and this just works to maintain it in its current condition.
And does it connect to any other trailheads or?
It connects to the Mica Peak Radar Site Road. And that road is limited access, not for the public, it's for, you know, travel to the FAA tower up there. And then it goes off our county site into private property. So no straight connection to any trailheads.
Thank you.
Very much.
No, we'll strike it out.
Heather? Heather? Oh. Okay. All right, Brandy, I didn't see you over in the corner there. We're getting there. Brandon with one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are just here to give you an update on the 24-25 Title VI program plan, our accomplishments and goals report for last year. This was actually due in November, but due to workload, it's been sitting for too long, so we need to get this submitted to WSDOT and USDOT. The only update that we made to the actual civil rights plan was the contact for the sheriff's department, since their contract person changed from our previous report. Otherwise, the only updates were to the accomplishments and goals report, which Brandy handled. So if you want to give an update on that one.
Sure. Yeah, so we're required to update on how we presented all of our publications and any of our public open houses. So those are all listed in there, as well as all of our construction contracts for the year, any of our consultant agreements, any right-of-way parcels we purchased. The only ones for this report were our Little Spokane properties, and there was 4 of those. And then any complaints that we received through HR for the program, we did not receive any complaints, so we got to put that as a no. And then our goals for the following year, which is just for staff to attend any available training that might be presented through FHWA or WSDOT.
This is actually on the docket for this afternoon because of how late we are in getting submitted. We needed to get this submitted right away.
Any questions on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners.
Great.
Today to talk with you about an update for the Coordinated Water System Plan. This is a plan that was last updated in 1999, and we're proposing to update that, and Amy Sumner, Water Resources Manager, will talk about that element.
Good morning. So the purpose of our CWSP is regional coordination for our multiple water purveyors that we have throughout the county. I think there's over 90 water systems that we have. And it also, the CWSP also serves as our county's water general plan, which is adopted as part of our comprehensive plan. This document was last updated in 1999, so that's back when I was in high school. So it definitely needs some updates. And we want to do this now so that we can align it with the comprehensive plan update that's occurring, since it is an element of that comp plan. And all of the water purveyors are currently on board with doing an update. So the scope of the update that we're proposing is just administrative in nature. We are looking to remove the out-of-date elements that are in the plan, and then clarify some things that to make it align with what we're currently doing. And some of that will be including some clarifications between what Public Works does versus what planning or building will be doing in our roles for the utility service reviews, for example. We also want to be able to get updated boundaries for all of our water systems. Currently, we think that we have some out-of-date boundaries for our water systems, particularly some of the smaller water systems, because they don't always have access to GIS services to be able to provide a more technical GIS boundary. Next slide, please. So we're proposing to use Aquifer Protection Area funds to complete the update. We estimated about $75,000 at a maximum to allow for staff time to complete the updates, coordinate with our water systems, coordinate with planning, and coordinate with the board on all of the updates. We think it'll take about 16 months max. That's kind of counting back from the maximum the statutes give for the Department of Health and for the county commissioners to review and accept the document update. And so we kind of count it back from that. APA funds, we believe, are eligible for this activity, including for planning and enforcement activities. And most of our purveyors utilize the SBRP aquifer as a source of drinking water. So we are requesting from you to sign a resolution, approve a resolution to initiate the update. The Board of County Commissioners has that authority in RCW 70A.100.060. So paragraph 6. So as part of the legislative authority, and within that you can determine the scope of the update and how broad or how narrow that is. We will bring the update recommendations from the Water Utility Coordinating Committee to you and to the Planning Commission, likely in 2026. So any questions?
I think that Scott Chesney's talked about this as part of the growth management update. So what when you talk about the scope, what are you thinking initially? Obviously, understanding where all the boundaries are of each service area, right? Because those probably have changed since 1999, and getting all those mapped out. What about system capacity?
So
Is that part of this, or could it be?
So system capacity is addressed in their individual water system plans, and the code, the state law allows us to have a coordinated water system plan that consists of a regional element and the compilation of all the water system plans. So the way that the county has approached this in the past and that we're kind of staying with is to have the document be our regional element, that's the CWSP that we'll be updating. And then all of the water system plans for each purveyor is their own document. And so it's the compilation of all of those. So their capacity is addressed through their individual water system plans, if that makes sense, not the actual CWSP document that we'll be updating.
And Scott's sitting.
Oh,
Yeah.
You've got a question for Scott.
So you're saying we'll compile all of those just into that they're in, I understand that each water purveyor is responsible for understanding the capacity of their own systems, each utility. And then will all that information be brought together?
Not brought together, we're just required to have them on site so that, you know, if somebody were to ask us, do you have a copy of water system plan for, say, Urban or whoever, we are able to provide that. So
And what is their time frame for updating each water system?
each water system plan is on a 5-year update, I believe, and so that will depend on when their last water system plans were, you know, they're all kind of staggered, so they're not synchronized, unfortunately, but.
But to your question specifically, this plan doesn't look at everyone's capacity, water system capacity, but we are going to reach out to water systems and talk with them later this week, actually. Spoken on for joint board meeting to talk with them about water systems that we see are running short, and I think it's an important item to address and see if the county doesn't have a specific task where we get in there and get to work with the chessboard and make changes, but we're interested in helping that along, because questions come to us, they come to you about, hey, what about water capacity? They come to planning as well, and so for us to use this opportunity to talk with the water districts, though they're not required to rely on us to be challenged.
Are the water district required to give you a copy of their individual plan?
That's correct, and we actually review the water system plans as part of the local government review. So consistency review. And lately, within, I'd say, the last year or so, planning and water resources has been conducting a joint review of those documents. So that's been really helpful.
And that's one of the benefits of this, updating this, is to align the actual practices that we're using now to be more in line with what the plan says. For example, the plan references a boundary review board, which used to be an office in Spokane County that dealt with conflicts between special purpose district boundaries, and that doesn't exist, but our plan still says it does. So to clean that up and be clear on the way that our practices are happening now.
That was one of the boards we got rid of in the last budget.
Right, there it is.
There it is.
Good old days when you had boundary review board.
They extended their boundaries.
Yeah.
Real quick, closely related to this, I remember about 2 years ago or so, a couple of gentlemen came in from the water districts and they kind of create that umbrella organization and I think the main concept was they said it would make it easier for the water districts to exchange water rights and be able to deal with capacity issues. Is that effort still ongoing?
That's the joint board of control where
Yeah,
they're able to pool water rights and then move them around. It's kind of simmering on the background. We were talking with water districts that are short of water, and that might be a way to move it along. It really is up to the water districts to do that. And so at this point, it's not moving forward, but it still gets mentioned occasionally.
Okay. All right, this just reminded me of that when you presented. It's like, I remember it was probably like 2 years ago or so, they came in and just briefed us on the concept, but you hadn't really heard anything since, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners.
God.
We are back before you with an updated, slightly updated version of the document you saw before. We're doing this as part of our budget preparation, and we're looking to get kind of a general consensus so that we can use some of these revenues for planning purposes as we put together our 2026 budget with Jeff and the rest of the team. Next slide, please. We'll go through these pretty quickly. You've seen versions of these all along. This is the CPI indicator from the federal government that we've used. You can see the percentage increase at the bottom. Next, please. And this, while hard to see on the screen, was in your earlier packet. This first slide is our comparison against what we call several of our peer counties, and those were, we used Pierce, Thurston, and Clark for that. You can see that in both the current and with our future CPI adjusted rates in the far right hand columns, we are still under most of those counties' fees for the major products that we have, notably the flats. Next, please. This second slide is a comparison against the city of Spokane and Spokane Valley. And you can see in some cases we're a little above, a little below, but competitive again. And then the next slide, please. And then these last two were based on the request from Chair CUNY last time to put these in the context of what does it mean for actual applications rather than the more abstract planning or land use fees themselves. So these incorporate the current fees for building and public works with the projected fee, well, both current and projected fee for land use. So for the major land use actions, they're up about that 20 to 25%. The CPI was 26.3 for building permits that we review because we play a relatively minor role in that. You can see that the net increase is $30 to $50 a permit, so it's a 2 to 4 to maybe a 7% increase on most of these. And then we did have one more slide that talked about the potential public works fee increase. And this was in those areas where we cross paths on that. The potential public works increase does add a substantial amount, but this is what it would look like. And we put that on there for your comparative purposes. We're here looking really just for kind of a head nod to go forward with the planning and land use fees. Because as you heard last time, and Mr. Amacio is here today, your predecessors in 2011 adopted the cost recovery fee system for what was then building and planning and tied it to the CPI. Those were periodically adjusted up to 2019, and then we did not adjust them since then. And what we're doing in this adjustment is simply adding back up through 2025, 26, what the CPI would be. And so the position was that you didn't have to take formal action on that unless you chose to create a resolution of some kind. So we're certainly open to questions, and we'd like to just move this forward into our budget discussion for the 2026. We would publish this in mid-December, and they would go into effect in January of 26. And as you know, as we've repeated or have said before, I think many of you understand the fees for land use and building permits are rarely the primary indicator from developers and builders. They're frankly more concerned about performance. As long as we get things through our system quickly and accurately, and they can start getting their equipment out on a site and start building things, the cost of the fee is somewhat incidental. We've had some anecdotal discussions with home builders and others and didn't have any major blowback. And when we publish it, we'll see what kind of public comment we get, but we're fairly comfortable that this allows us to put current planning into that full cost recovery mode, which allows us to take it away from any general fund draw, which is a benefit we haven't had since 2019 and probably.
So just looking on the residential side, then when you put the public works in there too. There's no changes in public works fees for residential.
The ones we put in gray did not have a public works component, so we highlighted those that where public works does directly impact the fee. And again, to be clear, we're not asking for a overall fee, including public works. That's up to Kyle and his team to work with. We're simply saying we'd like to go forward with the land use and planning fees.
Right. No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure we saw it kind of all together so we knew how much it was really gonna be. And I was concerned on the residential side, you know, for these home builders are just trying to with all the other regulations, build a home and it's getting harder. So, okay.
So these fees, do they support building, current planning, or both? Not long range, correct?
No,
Okay.
not long range. This is only current planning. So it's land use actions, permitting actions only. And those are the ones that charge a fee, and we're raising those to get back in line with the CPI so that we can fully recover, or as much as we can, recover the costs of providing current planning services.
So current planning is included in that. And can be supported by the fees.
Correct. Long-range planning and code compliance, our other two components, will always be a general fund draw.
So where are we at on like dashboard and talking about kind of reporting out on timeframes, things like that?
In the works. Working both Scott and Jordan are identifying some key metrics that we think are important to the board. We're working on, rather than having static reports that come out of the system, working on data dashboards like using Power BI. And there's a effort underway by Scott and Jordan just to look at the data, make sure it makes sense, evaluate kind of a QA standpoint, and then present some of their ideas for items on the dashboard. I've encouraged them. It doesn't have to be a full, robust everything that we do, but kind of focus on some key metrics, and then have the board kind of weigh in on to what additional items you might want to see. We've also talked about incorporating some financial aspects of it, building permit value that gives some ideas of economic leading indicators into the future. So there's a lot of work that goes on to getting that stuff, but both Scott and Jordan are working on being prepared to share something with the commissioners here in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's critical if we're gonna, and I understand we didn't raise the fees to keep up with the cost. And we're trying to get it back in line, but making sure we're actually providing that quick service to folks who are trying to build homes and build housing is really important. So, I mean, hopefully the data is not just for the commissioners or for the public, it's for your team to understand how quickly it, you know, how long it is taking to get a permit approved and figuring out how to do that as quickly as possible.
It is, it's both a narrative and also a marketing factor that we can show that we're performing, you know, at or better than our peer counties. So if you're looking for a place to attract investment, you can get in and out of the ground faster here than somewhere else and be able to demonstrate that. For the most part, we are well ahead of the state mandated guidelines for permits. We're doing better than that now. We want to certainly continue that and improve it through continuous performance between building, public works, and planning.
That's a little tricky because you got 3 different departments all working together
Yes.
to get those
Yes.
permits out the door.
Yes.
So.
Any other questions? We had none to move forward with,
Appreciate that.
because it's not a resolution thing.
Unless you would choose to do so, we believe the previous board's actions will still carry. Mr. Maggio could perhaps clarify if you need to.
This is only the planning portion, correct?
Correct.
Not anticipating anything on the building side of the equation, the building department.
But what
They
we're,
believe that public.
but our
works
head
has-
notes are for planning, not public works today.
And I will concur with Mr. Chesney, as a developer. You know, you don't have any problem paying the fee if you're getting the service. You hate paying the fee and not getting the service. And I know that Scott and his team has been very responsive and stuff. And so making sure that we keep the right people at the table to be able to perform is more critical than some CPI adjustments that are long overdue.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Judge Leland's in the hallway, so. Who's in the packet?
Oh,
Hi, Judge. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Yes, are you gonna introduce anything or am I ready? I'm gonna go ahead and stand if I can. I think I'm more comfortable doing that. I have a couple of handouts that I'll present, and then I have a video presentation that I'd like to present. But I appreciate being here. I want to thank the county commissioners for all the good work that they're doing and working with district court on some very challenging issues. So much appreciated. What the court is talking about today is a continuation of the grant that was granted to the court back in April. I think you probably remember the proceeding in April. It lasted on and on and on, but I thought it was good. We talked about the grant, and then we talked a little bit about the grant process. The grant that we were, I'm going to go ahead and just pass out this to everyone. This is a summary of what transpired with the other grant. Again, a successful grant, $7,100. One of the biggest issue were the indirect costs and all of that. Certainly a shout out to Sharissa and Pat Bell for their assistance. So what we're requesting today is approval of a $7,500 grant. And it's a continuation of the other grant. And let me take you through the summary that the court has prepared here. Obviously, the first is a cover. There's a summary. These are some of the achievements that we actually achieved. When Lisa comes back, we'll have her play the video here to show you kind of what we're going at here today. Not only have we created videos, we've also had a retreat. All of these would not have happened but for the grant. What we've done is, and you'll see this page, how to video productions. And I think you'll find them pretty interesting. They all pertain to criminal justice. And we're somewhat proud of what we've done. There's a criminal overview, there's defendant rights, and so on. This morning earlier, I went through and saw and attempted to see how the county was using similar type videos. And I see that Scott had a video on employment opportunities and so on, but I think this concept can be widely used. So we will have Lisa kind of go through a little bit. This is Lisa Kovalenko. She's going to go through a little bit of what the new grant is about. And then we'll certainly go ahead and answer questions. But two components. There's the continuation of the videos as well as a retreat. The retreat had many of our partners, including I see Mr. Sparber and his team were there. But at this point, Lisa, why don't you, this is Lisa Kovalenko. She's going to show us just a little bit about what these videos look like. There are 8 or so of them, but Lisa, why don't you show the commissioners what they actually look like?
So we were very privileged to use the previous grant to buy 2 of these surface players. And on them, we have access to both pre-trial services, but as well as the videos that we have currently already created. We would like to eventually have them on a website for use of everyone outside of the courtroom, but for right now, an attorney or a judicial assistant can grab the video. I'm gonna just pass it around so you can see. We're gonna play the one that it was interpreted to Spanish. So you'll just see Judge Leland talking, but at the same time, there's a Spanish overwritten and part of it. And we're very thankful to the county communication department, Charissa Sure. I don't know if Judge Leland mentioned it.
I
Pat
did
Bell.
mention her, but she needs a second shout out. She did such a terrific job.
They're very professional, very well done. We just didn't get to complete all the ones we wanted to. And so that's the step forward, is to get the rest of the video that we want complete, as well as the hiring a interpreter to interpret them. One of the reasons why we decided to do the interpreting version is because Spanish, Marshallese, and Russian are some of the top 3 languages that are currently being used in court. So this will assist with time in the court, as well as the opportunity to, if the interpreter is being used by a different courtroom. That's kind of what happens. It'll be the same interpreter around 5 different courtrooms, depending on who needs it. They can at least start playing the rights video or an overview of the court video while they're waiting for that interpreter to come in.
I didn't know Judge Leland spoke such fluent Spanish.
Talent.
It's yeah. No, it's an interesting concept, but it's a concept I think that we can use in the treasurer's office, the auditor's office, and all of these, even at the jails. It was interesting process, a lot more complicated than I had thought. Complicated not by me having to appear, but Charissa and her editing involved a good amount of work. But we've got a system down. I think it's polished. And unfortunately, I don't believe that she'll be able to help us going forward. We hope that maybe we can reverse that. But I know that she's very busy, and we have in our budget some money for that, and we've reached out and we have another provider. So the long and the short of it, the first grant, very successful. But we appreciate our partners, Mike Sparber and his team did a great job. We reached out and we coordinated with Colin from the Public Defender's Office. We also involved Aaron, of course, from Pretrial Services, and yes, and Prosecutor's Office and others. So any questions? Any questions? I know Scott brought some good questions last time, and his major concern, and we've tried to eliminate the number of touches that other departments are going to have. In other words, there's nothing to do with human resources. The grants office, I'm not sure how that's all going to work, but we're going to do all the internal reporting from the district court. We do appreciate the grants department for their good thoughts. I believe that there's no objection from it, but I haven't. Is there anybody from the grants department? Oh, Colin, you're here. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, Colin is going to be doing a video at some point, and look forward to involving him. And where it'll really help Colin and his team is his people will be able to show a video and use their time, not for the main overview, but to speak to the individual case. And I think for the prosecutor's office, I think it's going to help them, because my understanding is interpreters are paid through the prosecutor's office. And if you want to reduce that budget, something like this has potentially huge potential. In other words, how do we reduce the time for each interpreter? So, questions? I find it exciting. It's a great project. We urge your support. This is going to work, and I see this as a a pilot project for the county. I really believe that. I think we can use it in any number of ways. I see Commissioner Cooney doing a lot of videos and yeah, and others. You see some of you on television. Yeah.
I think the fact that, you're trying to add interpretation skills, interpreter skills in with it, to allow for that opportunity. I think this is, Scott's concern is having a lot of these grants that, don't have, overhead costs to it. But I mean, that's why it comes back to the commissioners to make a decision whether we think it's worth, using, doing that without, knowing we're not getting those costs recovered. So.
That would be the issue. And, Scott mentioned very clearly at the last meeting, that's a big issue. And all I can say is that there are indirect costs, there are administrative costs. We're going to try to absorb those internally, but we do have a budget that we can pay if a bill is sent to us, something like that. But I think we have to think bigger. This is something that I really think can be used outside of the district court, certainly Superior Court. I think the jail, I think where Colin is and others can take this and run with it. Countywide, yeah, yep. And Charissa is absolutely great. She can, now she's got a way of a process. She's got the process down. That process. So.
Judge Leland, thank you for this, and certainly I think the programs are great, and the pilots and the opportunities to use them broader. And from our last conversation, it looks like this one's a very light touch administrative lift, and most of it will be in district court. So, and you were very amenable last time. Is should we have a need for some sort of recovery of some costs outside district court, we're very amenable to that. So thank you for that. I think this one right here looks like a light touch and a good program and grant to be able to receive.
We actually did, we took your thoughts and good thoughts very seriously. Before we had an internship issue, and then that involved payment of the intern. It involved issues with human resources. So you see that we would like to have that, but we took that out. So this is really the minimal number of disbursements and so on. And so if there are no other questions, or we will look forward to.
Wonderful. More that we can have save time for all the different pieces of the justice system and have it be translated into different languages. It saves, hopefully it'll save some time and money on the interpretation translator side. So I think it's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Something else that I think AOC was trying to work with us is, instead of individualizing the 3 individual budgets, they did it all one lump sum to assist us, because I think that's one of the things that we ran into. Oh, we're not going to use an intern, but how can we use that money otherwise? So we were very appreciative with AOC working with us and making sure that there's the least touch as possible going forward.
This is, we are good stewards of the funds. AOC knows that. We've got to actually have pretty good relationship with AOC, which will hopefully grease the wheel a little bit for other grants that will be coming forward. And so anyway, we thank you for your time. If you have any other questions, I'll be available. I can run over at any point in time, or I'm available by phone or by email. So anyway, good to see everyone. Thank you for
We're gonna keep for the show and tell.
yeah, it's all good. Okay, very good. Thank you. See you in touch. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now it's gonna take Scott.
Okay, Commissioners, for your consideration today, this is a briefing on amending your County Code 117A, which relates to the standards for delivering public defender services. Why do you need to consider changing the code?
What do you guys want to?
I'm not going, there's a lot of slides here. I'm not going to read through everything. I'll highlight some of the key ones. So In June of this year, the Washington State Supreme Court issued an order which changed the caseload standards for indigent defense. You're all familiar with this. It was a caseload standard that reduced felonies from 150 down to 47, misdemeanors from 300 to 120. The implementation, as the court order said, may be implemented in phases, 10% reduction annually, full compliance no later than 10 years. Next slide. Continuation of what the court order said is the Washington State Bar Association had submitted their recommendations. The Washington State Supreme Court order adopted the proposed standards, but on a modified implementation schedule that I just indicated. It also stated that public defenders need to comply with applicable court rules and the rules of professional conduct. And then the counties may use the standards as guidelines. So what kind of creates the requirement for the county to have code on this? That's RCW 10-101-030. The county shall adopt standards for the delivery of public defense services. So the code changes would be in the alignment, the proposed code changes are in alignment with the Supreme Court order that I just highlighted. So these are the highlights of the proposed changes within the code. There's a number of sections in here that relates to the delivery of services under the Constitution of the U.S., Constitution of the State of Washington, providing and rendering effective high-quality legal representation with integrity. Next slide. This would also incorporate the effective representation to be compliant with the rules of professional conduct, the Washington State Supreme Court orders and rules, and the rules specifically CR 3.1, which is a Superior Court rule. Next slide, continued updates and revisions to the code, which also requires contracting for representation of public defenders should the public defender's office not have the ability to do it. Some more code changes here, talking about the ensuring constitutionally adequate representation for the clients. This is on to 040, the next slide. Very similar statements, compliance with the rules of professional conduct as interpreted by the Washington State courts, as well as Supreme Court orders and Rule CR 3.1. So why is 3.1 important? This talks about caseloads and the employment agreements with the attorneys. Go to the next one. The code today actually it's out of date because it highlights caseload standards that were prior to the Supreme Court. So rather than listing every single caseload standard in the code, it really strips those out and references the Supreme Court standards, CR 3.1 and rules for professional conduct. So this is a repeat of an earlier slide, kind of highlighting what the significant changes are. And again, the Supreme Court had a 10-year phase-in requirement, which is essentially a 10% reduction on an annual basis. So if you go to the next slide, this is an important one. The Washington Superior Court Criminal Rule 3.1 states very explicitly, attorneys may not count cases using a case weighting system unless pursuant to written policies and procedures that have been adopted and publicized by the local government entity, that's all of you, for employing, contracting, and appointing with them. So there is nothing right now that the county commissioners have adopted for case weighting. So right now, the method for doing it would be the Supreme Court standards. So if you go to the next one, specifically in the Supreme Court order, the court declined to operate the mandatory method of case counting and case weighting as proposed by the WSBA standards. And it again reinforced that case weighting should rely on written policies and procedures adopted by local legislative bodies. Next slide, let's go to the next one, Ron. continued updates for specific code changes in the 1.17A040. Talks about total number of cases handled each year. And if they're exceeded, that the board and the public defender will confer and consider adopting various strategies to increase or decrease the caseload. Next slide. This particular piece calls out exactly in, next one, Ron, if you could. Exactly what the CR 3.1 stipulates, as well as the Washington State Supreme Court regarding not adopting case weighting systems without actions by a board. And then the next number of ones are dealing with kind of support related staff, secretary, paralegals, particular standards to try to achieve. The next slide is regarding the investigator, again, staffing levels for supporting of public defense attorneys. So the this code update is just changing the reference here and including some additional statements on attorney's qualifications shall be in accordance with the severity or case type as outlined in Washington CR 3.1 standard 14. So that's a quick run through these things. I know you've all been familiar with the Supreme Court order regarding indigent defense. There's a lot of conversations around cost to counties and the lack of state funding for these things. So this would be something should the board decide to take action. There is a notice of public hearing. It does require a public hearing because it is a code change. It's 10-day notice. And so the notice is on your consent agenda this afternoon. And then it would be a public hearing set for, I believe, October 2 weeks out from there. I don't have my calendar in front of me. So that would be the kind of schedule of activities for the board. There's a resolution in here in the briefing package, along with all of the strikeouts and replacements of the particular county code for your review and consideration. October 17th, Gina just shared. So happy to take questions to the best of extent that I can, me being a non-attorney.
Scott, you said that if there's a conflict, it requires what? Contracting?
No, if the public defender, if our public defender does not have the ability to handle the cases, then it does require that they have the ability to contract them out for private bar.
So what does that do? What does this proposal do with the current Counsel for Defense program?
Nothing. This is just specifically, it's kind of all inclusive, if you will. Counsel for Defense, while there's a separate code that establishes that, still falls under public defense, indigent defense in this particular code.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to ask Colin if I could, if he has input on this proposal as the public defender and kind of the relationship with the RPCs and the proposed code change as you see it.
May I? Yeah, I mean, I understand the basis for moving to amend the code. I guess my issue is this doesn't solve the ethical dilemma, doesn't solve really anything having to do with the Supreme Court. I mean, the order is the same. At some point within 10 years, you're going to get to a place where it's case weighting, and for felonies, it's 47 case credits, theoretically, right? Unless something changes, data comes in and things change, that's what it's going to be. I don't think this helps us out. I think it makes it more complicated. Like I said, the ethical part of it still exists. To not have case weighting at this point in time, I mean, as I talked about yesterday to all of you, seems incredibly problematic to me. There's a reason why 17 other counties have already done it years ago. I think the ethical problem is an ineffective assistance of counsel problem. I think the two, as Commissioner Jordan just mentioned, are commingled, they're absolutely intertwined. The only way to be constitutionally effective in my mind is to be ethically compliant. And the only way to do that at this point is some form of case weighting. To me, at this point, it's still the bar. I don't need to, we've had presentations and meetings about that for the last few months. I don't need to rehash that. But to me, it's incredibly important that we can do this. If there's some disagreement about case credit numbers and case counts, I mean, that's something that maybe we can work out. But I mean, I understand, but it doesn't solve the issue, I guess, Matt and Scott. I think that's my biggest takeaway. Also, that the real problem still exists too. I notice a lot of the code says, go ahead and contract those out. We can maybe even get some data on what it costs for private attorneys. Well, I gave you a lot of information yesterday. We don't have them. I can't find enough private attorneys to take cases at the contract rates currently compensated. So I don't know how much data you're actually going to get. As I said yesterday, there's only 3 felony attorneys in Spokane that are under contract with us taking cases. 4 are qualified, only 3 are taking it. So I think it's problematic. I also not sure on the interpretation of 3.1. For example, I currently do some contracting with those folks, so I'm not sure what that means as far as Matt, the local government entity. I think that's a little bit confusing. Regardless, again, it doesn't solve the ethical problem. So one way or another, and I think the code or the amendment properly states, you know, Victoria and I have a duty under RPC 5.1 not to assign cases that we think are excessive in any way. We have to ensure that effective constitutional requirement, which is in there, which I appreciate. But in order to do that, then we still have to do something. So what does that look like? Again, it just changes the dynamic and changes maybe how we do it, but again, doesn't solve the problem.
So a couple questions. So if we were to adopt this, what changes for you and your attorneys day to day in terms of what you're talking about with this ethical dilemma?
What does it mean as far as us assigning cases? I think is what you're asking, Commissioner.
Or your attorneys taking cases?
Well, at the moment, again, we're gonna comply with the current code, which is 117A. It says we shall comply with the bar standard. So we'll do that for the time being. But assuming that the code changes, we'll have to figure out a way to maintain our ethical responsibilities. And how we do that, I don't know at the moment. But we will have to do that. And I think it's pretty clear in my mind in the last 5-6 months into doing this deep dive, as again, I won't rehash it for all of you, you're aware of my take on it. It's clear to me, though, that counting one case is absurd. There's no way to be ethically compliant with a shoplifting being the same as a homicide. Body cam and experts and DNA and cell phone extraction, it's not the same. So we have to figure out a way that our attorneys are in compliance. Victoria and I both need to do that. What that looks like, I don't know. If a case is a case and we can't wait cases, all right, well, we'll have to find that ethical hard line of wherever that number is, and I don't know at the moment.
So what you're saying is we should adopt, we haven't, I'm looking at one of the pages here in the slideshow. Case weighting should rely on written policies and procedures that have been adopted and published by the local government entity. So that's us.
Arguably.
Have we done that in Spokane County yet? Do we have any written policies and procedures for our case weighting?
The bar has done that. So, right, so.
We've been just defaulting to that.
Correct. So
Right.
essentially, we've adopted that through the bar adopting that. Right, so my take is, and I think Victoria would agree, obviously ask her, is that to be ethically compliant, we had to adopt bar standards. And it also complies with the current county code, we shall, right? So to me, that is compliance right now. Now, if the code changes, that may change things, and perhaps we get some authority or definition on legal entity that contracts with private attorneys for indigent defense services. Maybe that's not the public defender's office. Maybe it's the local government. I think maybe that's certainly a possibility, right? So it depends. It would just change the landscape. It doesn't solve the problem. That answer your question, sure. Doesn't look like it did.
I thought that in the past we had talked about adopting some case weighting here based on the data of how long it takes your attorneys to support different types of cases, right?
Yes. I don't know if it's been
Because-
talked about. It sounds like actually Commissioner Kern brought it up at some point in one of the previous meetings that I think Tom Krasminski, my predecessor, had talked about it with you all at some point. But recently, no, it's just been the bar. That's what we're defaulting to.
But yeah, I'm just suggesting that maybe we we should be adopting our own policies based on the actual data, which I know has been hard to get. But I know we've talked about doing that. So
Oh, I see going forward. Yeah.
Right, right.
So, and I had some conversations with some commissioners almost a year ago about the need for case waiting and was trying to get some budget numbers that very difficult to get with our PDM system, and then this has kind of preempted a lot of that. I think that I'm still a believer that we need the case waiting. The concern, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, because there's a couple I wanted to jump in on. There was a case waiting, or there is a case waiting policy that the county did adopt, and it dealt mainly with ECR, which allowed cases to be actually counted as less than a full case. We had to abandon that model based on, you know, court rules and different things that came out, and obviously there is no currently an ECR docket at this time. The concern that Paul and I have discussed is standards that the WISPA, Washington State Bar Association, has adopted. I shouldn't say it's a concern, but reality is it empowers the attorneys to be able to say, no, I can't take any more cases. So if we don't, as a county, have a case waiting system that's adopted, we can't control then what their caseloads are going to be. It's going to be each individual attorney making that decision and saying, no, I can't do this, which is supported in the RPCs. But if we have these adopted standards, then they know what they're getting into in their employment contract as far as what is expected of them. And I think that maintains more local control over what the case is. I'm putting this out there because I know input for this meeting wasn't asked for from me, but I wanted everyone to be aware because I'm presenting in front of you next Monday. But I think that there's a solution here that can involve, you know, if you need to change the county code, but can it get to where everyone needs to, which I believe is moving forward with the phase one, which is what the officers are currently doing, which is the 110 with the weighting that the Supreme or that the WSBA adopted based on the National Public Defender Work Code study. But then moving from there, the 10-year or the 10% implementation reduction from that phase one, which the WISPA standards is 3 years. That is not feasible for this county. It's not feasible for a lot of counties. There are not enough lawyers graduating law school for us to get into these positions to go with that accelerated time frame. But if we have phase one at the 110 with the weighting, and then we go down 10% each year, that should lessen the financial burden on the county, allow us to do the recruitment we need to get the attorneys in to do this work. But more importantly, it allows us to retain the most qualified attorneys, because those are the ones who these caseload standards and the case weighting really affect, because they're the few attorneys that we have employed in the county or through contract that are qualified to take the most serious cases. And as I know you guys are aware of multiple presentations, I think from both the prosecutor and the public defender about retention and recruitment, retaining those people with that experience is paramount for us. Because when they leave, we have even a less of a pool of attorneys to reassign those cases to. So that their entire caseload is these very heavy cases that they're not being given more than 12.75 hours to work on. So that's a proposal that Colin and I have been discussing that we think would comply with our ethical responsibilities and then have an expectation of what the attorneys would be expected to settle for cases. It also allows, because of the WSB standards having clawback provisions, it will require attorneys to keep time, which is something that we haven't done before because we've only had 12.75 hours on each case. And we were spending more time than that on our cases. But there are provisions in the new standards that require timekeeping because, as you know, the signers of these cases, if their hours are not adding up to that full amount, we take those credit backs when the case resolves and they have more credits that they're expected to then work on. And in the one-off where they actually work more than the hours that are, you know, accounted for in the case waiting, we have to make adjustments there, but it allows us, like I said, to maintain more local control of what is.
Here's a math question. One choice is to change the code, adopt the Supreme Court standards. Is there a, in your mind, is there a second choice that could be considered to adopt some kind of a case waiting, whatever that might be, that brings us into compliance with the Supreme Court standard, but is somehow supplementary or different? than that schedule, so to speak? Is that a viable second option that the board has from a policy perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm hearing from Colin and Victoria is that case weighting standards would help you and your attorneys be in compliance. And we don't have one here. The court rule says a written policy and procedure from the local governing body. I think that's probably the board. Maybe there's an argument that it's somebody else, but I don't think it needs to necessarily be together. I think we could do one and then the other. I think the case weighting standards is going to be. We want to really think carefully.
So it is a second choice for the board. One choice is yes or no on the code change. A second possibly related choice is yes or no on case weighting. And what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be, my question is, what would be required to craft a proposal for case weighting? What does that look like?
Well, there's 17 other counties that have adopted case weighting. So you have on one end, what Commissioner Kearns mentioned is a 1-for-1, which is kind of what our code states right now. On the other end, you've got the Washington State Bar standards, and then you've got 17 examples of what other counties have done. And so my approach would be to look at all of that and see which one best fits here. Hopefully we have some additional data from Colin's team, Victoria's team, as they're starting to count how much time it actually takes for some of these cases to inform our case weighting and go from there. But it would be a resolution and a code amendment.
Or am I hearing? I mean, because I think in order to do that, we have to adopt the state Supreme Court's standards. But because if we don't, we can't delay the time frame of the implementation. I think that was the point of the Supreme Court, was they were wanting to delay the time frame to knowing some of these actions were coming potentially before them. And so I thought I was kind of hearing that if we adopt the state Supreme Court standards, that gives you the opportunity to then look at what weighting and what time frame could be and still meeting your ethical standards today. So I don't know, I guess, did I not hear that correctly?
Well, and I think if I can jump in, I had a question, because what I thought I heard is that phase one is adopting the current bar standards, but then after that, then we can go to the 10% phased approach. So why do we have to adopt the bar standards now? Why not just the phased approach that's the Supreme Court order? If we can change it in a year.
If it included case weighting. And so I think that we can do this reduction at 10% as long as the starting point has the case weighting in the 110 cases. Because that's what our attorneys believe that they need, is the most that they can handle.
And Matt, if I could just add to that, I think the other part is the RAND study, it is the bar study, it is the table I showed you yesterday, that even in phase one, if you, on average, one attorney would have about 4,000 hours worth of work to do, and there's about 2,000 in a given year, and that's no vacation time, that's 40 hours a week. So it's still ethically problematic in phase one, right? So the sooner we can get to a place where workload is reduced to a manageable amount, the better, right? So I think it's all based on that as well. So.
But if we adopt the state Supreme Court standards, doesn't that allow and say that we're going to adopt case weighting? Doesn't that allow you to tell us what that case weighting should be and we adopt those standards?
Yeah, once we have, I think Commissioner, your point, once we have more data, because you're right, Victoria and I will be keeping that time management here shortly, getting Mike to figure that out. But yeah, once we have more data, then we'd be able to tell, okay, maybe this weight is appropriate, maybe it's not, maybe it can be adjusted. Also the max, what are the total number of case credits? Does that number need to be adjusted? We would have some more information to do that.
So I guess that doesn't preclude us from adopting the state Supreme Court standards here soon. I mean, we gotta go through a process and all that, but then it's still, because yes, your attorneys are trying to meet standards they feel are ethically needed at this point. So I mean, so I don't think it's kind of in conflict, but it's not really in conflict. So I don't see why adopting the state Supreme Court standards changes that. Just, I mean, because you're gonna have attorneys coming to you saying, I can't do that, and you're not gonna allow them.
Right, I mean, the attorneys at this point, and goes back to a conversation we had in July, the attorneys at this point believe the bar standards apply, to them, right? They've had the CLEs, back to that conversation. They're saying, hey, the only way to be 100% ethically compliant is to follow us. That's the only way you can do it. So regardless of what we as managers decide to do, if those cases get assigned beyond what they believe they can take ethically, that's, the cap's gonna be the cap anyway, practically speaking.
Yeah, I just want to allow us the opportunity to, if we can, have time to implement those, the rest of the standards, once we implement, because we have to implement the case weighting. And then like I think I've talked about before, then it allows us the opportunity to implement a little, more along with the state Supreme Court, the additional administrative staff and support and all of that that's needed, that is not tying them to an ethical standard requirement.
And Commissioner, sorry, Victoria, I don't mean to cut you off there if you're gonna say something. And to the point I was trying to make yesterday, but I think it got lost in all the other data I was presenting, is at this point with phase one, right? Let's assuming that continues, code doesn't change or whatever the case may be, or we work something out. Come January, I think we are in a position where we would be in compliance with phase one, meaning not turning folks away, assigning cases as they come in. Again, the one variable that I always say is we don't know what work filings are gonna do, right? This month has already been higher than most, and so it's problems. But by my math, it looks like if we hired the 4 more through OPD and 1 more through Victoria's office, the 5 total, we would be in a place that's closer to, everything that comes in, we assign kind of a position. Is it gonna be, I don't know, filings will vary, but we could already be there. And I guess my point is, if we can continue with phase one, everybody's sure we are ethically compliant, first of all. And then we can still gather data during that time frame, to Victoria's point, and say, okay, well, maybe phase 2 needs to be just a 10% reduction as opposed to what the bar says phase 2 is. Okay. Is that?
No, I think so, and I think us changing our code to meet the state Supreme Court standards, I think doesn't change that. And so, but it allows us a future opportunity to look at a delayed implementation. So.
I just want to clarify that. Because my understanding is if we adopt a code change that requires a certain caseload standard, which is not what they're doing and what they're viewing as ethically required, in your view, there's a tension there in my mind. Wouldn't that require a change in the current practice?
Well, I think the current code, if we change, so I don't know, I'm just trying to
All
figure
good
this out.
questions.
If we're changing the code to meet the state Supreme Court standards, but we're also saying that there needs to be a case weighting that is approved by the board, that's what I would expect. We're gonna have a case weighting that's gonna come before us that may not be in conflict. Maybe it is that first phase of the bar association, but but then allows for us to delay, as you guys were talking about, go with the 10-year implementation plan of the state Supreme Court, not forcing it all to be happening within 3 years because we can't afford that. So in my mind, we have to adopt the state Supreme Court standards to allow us the opportunity to try to delay the implementation. And we are gonna have conflict. I mean, that's just, I'm hoping that we can, figure out what that, negotiate what that not negotiate, but I mean, figure out how the Bar Association and the state Supreme Court works through some of that. I mean, as we know, there is litigation that is happening at the state, which is why I think the state Supreme Court was trying to allow for a delayed implementation to see what either the legislature or what comes before them. So I'm just trying to allow us that opportunity for that potential delay. So that's where I see adopting the state Supreme Court standard, changing the code for that, saying because that's reading what you just presented, we should be adopting a case weighting. So
What I'm hearing is that case weighting is gonna be a necessary step for all of the attorneys to feel like they're in compliance. In the absence of county adopted case standards, the safety net, the fallback is the Bar Association standards, and that's where we are today. And so what Victoria and Colin have laid out seems like a really good compromise and path forward where the attorneys feel like they're complying with the standards so we can retain our people, which is really, really important. And if we adopt our own case weighting standards and the state Supreme Court standards, then after that phase one, we can do the 10% scale down over time, which gives everybody more time to manage the change. So I think the next step would be on some case weighting standards together.
Yes. Here's still not sure.
Well, so are you saying pause this item and work on the case standards, case weighting standards, or move forward with the code change and then do case weighting?
The second one. I think you could do them together. I think you could do them separately.
Commissioner Kearns.
So, I mean, there's so much that goes into this discussion. It goes back to Colin's predecessor with our whole case weighting discussions that we went round and round with him. Would it not be in our best interest to align our code with the most favorable plan to move forward, which in my opinion is the Supreme Court standards? Because there is the possibility that when the majority of counties in this state, when they come to the realization of how much this is truly going to cost, and they go storming to the legislature to do something, and there are pressures across the entire criminal justice system that possibly the Supreme Court gives even further guidance, maybe something with some teeth in it, or the legislature passes something to make this more affordable across the state, that it would be a good thing for us to have our ducks in a row, not siding with the plan that is completely unaffordable to the counties. Would that be kind of just a good idea to have sort of our ducks in a row?
Absolutely, but the other side of that coin is the attorneys certifying their compliance with.
Yeah, no, and I get that. The attorneys are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yes.
But if the legislature does something that sets the standards or puts some pressure, and I mean, I get it, the trial attorneys are extremely powerful lobbying group in Olympia. But wouldn't it be best that our code match at least the thing that is most financially doable and favorable to the taxpayers of this, that we represent?
It's a good argument.
Okay.
But I mean, to the point I brought up earlier, I mean, we could adopt this, we could make this code change, but I don't see anything changing until we do the case weighting. And so to me, why not do it? Why not make a change at the same time once we actually know what we're doing and we can actually back it up with some data? That's just, I mean, I'm just not understanding what's going to change tomorrow if we made this code change without dealing with the case weighting. And then just a question for Scott. Have you checked in with the Public Defender Union at all about this conversation?
Me checking with the public defender?
Well, you're presenting this item today.
Right, well, yeah, you're all aware that we're in negotiations with the Public Defenders Union through our labor negotiations.
Okay, I was just wondering if they're where we're looking at this today, if you've just reached out.
I have not personally, I wouldn't generally do that. That would be something our labor negotiations would do.
Okay.
Right, so I just wanted to make sure that expectations aren't being set here that Colin and I wouldn't be able to come up with. You're asking for like time for us to have like information on numbers and things. This has just started on July 2nd. These cases aren't going to be resolved in the next few months for us to have the data that you're wanting, especially on the more serious cases. So those take, sometimes multiple years before they're at a place of conclusion. Which is why I will come back and keep saying that the caseload weighting that is in the WSB standards would be what we would be presenting to you because it's based on that study. And then again, we would monitor for those hours to make the appropriate adjustments. The other thing I wanted to indicate is, and I know I had mentioned, Scott and I had a communication about this. And the biggest issue or the biggest impact on these standards is going to be in our juvenile department, because previously they've been allowed to have 250 cases, and it really matters if it's felonies and misdemeanors. They will be held to the same 120 misdemeanors and 47 felony case credits at final implementation. So that is where the biggest need for additional attorneys is going to be, whatever the implementation timeline is.
I would add to that, I think the felony side is gonna be equally hard hit on that as far as the need for attorneys. But the other part I wanted to address quickly was Commissioner Kern's comment. I agree totally with the state, as we've been saying for months, or years. The state needs to pay more, and how is the best way to accomplish that? I guess my argument is we're already compliant with the Supreme Court as far as certifications. We're already there. That is happening. That's the floor, not the ceiling. My suggestion is still, as Victoria's mentioned, and we're on the same page, is going forward with the bar standards, because that ensures the ethical side of it. I think there's a huge risk not to do that. And again, this is back to the case waiting. The reason the other counties have done this, in my opinion, is because it's a shield. It's a shield to civil litigation. If you're sure you're compliant ethically, then you're constitutionally effective, or at least more likely that you are. And if that's the case, you're not getting sued for ineffective assistance of counsel. You're not having some of these other legal issues, which would cost way more than adopting a case waiting or a case credit system, in my opinion, right? If you get some of those lawsuits, again, not my area, Matt can speak to it more, but that's gonna be costly, even just to defend those civil actions. So to me, at this point, case waiting is a must ethically, and I think it's even more cost effective, quite frankly. So we've already moved resources around, as I mentioned yesterday, and if we can comply with phase one with really just complying with slight increase to last year's budget with OPD money, why not do that? We can get more data. We already do have the data, though, as Victoria mentioned and I mentioned, the RAND study, the BAR study, right? There is data out there, but we can supplement it with ours and say, oh no, our jurisdiction's a little different. Maybe a homicide case shouldn't be 7, maybe it should be 5, right? So we can adjust those accordingly, but it would give us time to do. Thanks.
Okay. I understand now what you were suggesting.
So I guess we'd be looking for head nods on whether you want to keep the public notice on the agenda this afternoon. Maybe some direction for us to work on some case waiting standards to bring back, or if you'd like to strike the item and combine the two.
I'm happy to keep that notice on the agenda today. It still gives us time to 2 weeks before it comes before to continue to have the dialogue. But I think we're still gonna, whether we change the code, we're still gonna be having this dialogue and having this ongoing conversation. And no, we need to figure out what that case waiting is that gets developed, but in the meantime, it seems like we're going to still be the Public Defense Office and Council for Defense will still be using the first phase of the Bar Association. So, I mean, I don't see how any of that changes at this point in time, other than I think giving us the code change allows us to look at how the future looks in my mind versus, staying with what that standard is from the Bar Association. That 3-year increment gives us the 10-year time frame. So to me, that's why I'd be supporting the code change to get us to that Supreme Court standard.
I would prefer that we do some intensive meetings around what would a case waiting look like, so we have an alternative choice.
But we need to get that in the code, because right now it's not in the code,
The case waiting,
the case waiting.
I know, I would prefer to just do it as a package or to think of it as one conversation. Because what I heard is there's still an ethical dilemma if we separate them. So I prefer to bring them together and, report back in a week or 2 or however long it takes to kind of vet another option on case waiting. So that'd be my wish.
I agree.
I already said I'm happy.
I agree with you.
On them. on the docket for today.
I was sitting here waiting until two of you agreed, and then they haven't done that. I'm okay moving forward.
I think there's gonna be a lot of discussions going forward, so.
I think, yeah,
yes.
your wish for some intensive meetings on case weighting, Commissioner Jordan will happen.
And I would just ask if I could be included in those, because it would be nice to be a part of the conversation.
That's more of us.
Thank you for speaking.
Thank you. Hey, so we're at noon and we have lots of work to do. So,
The end of our regular agenda.
okay, so that is the end of our regular agenda. We have 1, 2, 3.
Your time for miscellaneous, or do you need to?
If you are very brief.
Yeah.
While I figure out what we're doing here.
Well, Pat's approaching the end of the table. I had a miscellaneous that popped into my head as we were going through today's agenda items. I would like to ask on the agenda briefing sheets that are a part of our packet. I know we have a thing that says fiscal impact. I think most of the individuals that are presenting are looking at the immediate fiscal impact. Maybe we include a part of that, you know, if this agenda item has a fiscal impact, is there an ongoing fiscal impact? Or is there a future fiscal impact? You know, I know 2 weeks ago, as a part of our presentation, we saw, and I bet if I went back and looked at those briefing sheets, a lot of them said, you know, the fiscal impact was only the matching funds to get a grant. But then we found out that no, there's a lot of ongoing maintenance that then increases because of some of the improvements we've made. So it would be nice if we know those things ahead of time. So would just ask if maybe that be a part of that fiscal impact statement, any future or ongoing fiscal impact, not just the immediate fiscal impact.
Yeah, and I don't recall what the briefing sheet says off the top of my head.
It just says fiscal impact, please provide anticipated fiscal and budgetary impacts with amount and source of funds if applicable. But I think
So
most of those are the one-time fiscal impact, not if there's a future fiscal impact.
Probably leaves it up to interpretation. I might look at that and say that's a current and ongoing. I would fill it out like that.
I don't think we've been getting the ongoing as a part of that. So maybe just making sure that's clear.
Yeah.
The quality.
Maybe like a sub bullet or a sub thing to fill out.
It's
Or 2 lines, yeah.
Okay, so we have, where you go, Pat, I just want to make sure. So we've got 3 executive sessions, 2 are 20 minutes, 1 is 30 minutes. One is people scheduled for this morning versus after the 2 o'clock. And the 2 o'clock is going to go a little bit because we've got the budget hearing. We've got the Liberty Lake TIF that I know I've got several people I'm speaking to. So just letting people know it's not gonna be a quick 2 o'clock.
So, just as you're laying out your agenda, no commitments, I have to leave town on Thursday morning and I need to be done by then. No, I have a Zoom meeting with Northwest Natural Gas on at 1 o'clock that I've got to do. So and then
So maybe we get 2 of these out of the way and do 1 this afternoon. Okay. So we'll take the top 2.
Commissioner Jordan asked this one to go first. As Judge Smith is here.
Okay.
So announce them.
Yep.
Did you, Pat was ready for miscellaneous.
Okay, so I give us a quick.
Here we are.
Give it-
Okay, briefly.
1
I'll
minute.
take, 1 minute. So this is just for you all to review. This is version 2 of the Crisis Relief and Sobering Center. I mentioned yesterday that we had some names to consider that have come up through the project group. We had a very long list of about 15 names or a dozen names for the Crisis Relief and Sobering Center. The 2 that I'll present, and I know Matt is going to do some look at trademarks and IP CARE, which is an acronym for Crisis Access Recovery and Engagement, or PATH, Prevention, Assessment, Treatment, and Healing. Those
you know, we have some wiggle room with the names, but care or path, wellness, recovery, center, or haven could be additions. Those were the two. There was a distant third, but we tried to get it down to two. The distant third was Cedar, which would be crisis, emergency, detox, and recovery. Cedar, it's located near Cedar Street. Cedar also has cultural and regional local significance. That's why there's a street named after it. So just thinking about this, if you have any feedback, I've already gotten a lot of feedback on this. If I get head nods today, we're good to move forward. We can still make a few small typographical changes, but I'd like to get the website updated and this published so you all can begin using it. I have the black and white version one if anyone needs to see that. And I have all the commissioners' email comments as well.
I assume you'll fill in the X. That's not people for how many people it serves.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that was probably my ex that I sent. I was hoping you'd figure that out.
That was a copy and paste job.
I think that just from glancing at it, it's much more, the story is like, there's a crisis, this is saving lives, it's much more kind of about the real kind of purpose of it rather than the jargon piece. It's good.
Okay. That's what we were trying to do with feedback, is get rid of jargon, more into plain language. So feel free to take a look at that. Let me know offline, maybe by the end of today or tomorrow. And then we'll go forward with getting it published again, website updated. On the names, happy to take any feedback now or in the future.
I just wonder, just a comment, should we not include that 3 million, because we don't really have that, we just have indications that it might. So really the only.
Put requested like.
And anticipated was the other word. Requested.
Yeah. In requested, we could.
Or in parentheses. Yeah.
I like path.
Path?
I like.
This is your path to recovery. I think we can use the word path in a lot of different ways.
We have CARES already in this.
Yeah.
In our,
Yeah,
the counties.
CARES.
Yeah, CARES organization under Justin, so.
CARES dollars.
Bring some.
The CARES dollars.
CARES dollars.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
CARES has been used a lot.
Yeah.
Path, I can't think of.
There's a Camas Path.
What's that?
Camas Path is a Kalispell treatment program, so just.
Well, this is our path.
So
Yeah. We've created
Let
we're
you know
storming our own path.
what the other paths are.
Blazing our own path.
There's other paths. I mean, that's where he's asking, so are we, having looked at trademarks?
That's being done.
Okay. That's like an ask.
In the works.
Yep.
Huh?
That is in the works.
Okay.
All right, so that's that item.
So path or cedar?
Path, cedar, or care, probably not care. I
Care,
guess.
yeah.
So path or cedar, we're down to. All right, more discussion on that before. Item 2 is real quick KSPS. We've had discussions here about reducing cost. That is a board expense. It's been running, I think, 20 to 25,000 a year. Martha Lou, myself, Ron, Commissioner Kearns took a visit over to the health district at the suggestion of the board. I think Ron has some photos. There are 2 great sets over there. I would just recommend a lift and shift if we want to go that route, with kind of 5 pilot episodes using the space over there, each commissioner getting an episode, 1 a month. Here's one. You've got a table kind of newsroom look that you could use where you would be opposite your guest. It is a studio. It does have good sound. It has an operator. It would be made available to us at no cost, is my understanding, as part of the SRHD's significant investments in communications over the last several years. There's also another angle for a more, so there you get a little more animated shot.
The action shots, realistic.
And then there is a more alcove-y type spot where you could try kind of a copy with the commissioner. And I'd be happy to talk with you offline. We do have some opportunity innovation in the space. If you want the format changed up, if you want it more conversational, if you don't want a teleprompter. But when I say lift and shift, this would be pre-recorded, produced by us, and probably with some assistance from the health department, SRHD, and then it would go on YouTube. If you wanted to innovate and try it as a live version, and you think you could contain your enthusiasm and your spontaneity, we could try that. But it would still have the same result. We would have a video product at the end. It would just be a live. So some opportunities there for innovation, but I would just recommend a lift and shift and taper off with KSPS by the end of the year.
I think it goes without saying, but you can definitely tighten up the shot so those lights on the ceiling aren't in the shot. They said we can put something like some sort of graphic on that back wall behind us and stuff too, so it's pretty high-end equipment that they've got, I mean.
It's very nice.
Good stuff, that they've got.
I'm impressed by the glare off the knees.
Smile for the camera is
Yeah.
part of Ron's job
Yeah.
description.
I think it's. We're trying to cut costs for everything.
Alright, so we
I like
got
the-
two.
I like the idea too, that you had discussed about, you could have an online guest.
Yes.
If you were doing like more of a,
Zoom.
right, like you could
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a guest from Olympia during the legislative session or something. Instead of having to be in person,
In studio.
yeah.
So the plan is to have the KSPS still and then to do this.
At the end of
Oh.
the year, we would taper off with the KSPS.
Oh,
That would reduce costs by 22 to 25,000 for the board, out of your budget. Martha Lou, I think we have three. Martha Lou can proceed with conversations with Gary Stokes and give them notice. We're not under contract, to my knowledge, but can let them know, tapering off. Okay. That's all I had for you.
Thank you.
Okay, two executive session items this morning. They're both pending in potential litigation. No action in both. First one, I'd like Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, District Court Judge Smith, and Devin Kurta. Second one is a larger group. Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Jeff McMorris, Doug Chase, Jasper Coulter, Dan Gadd, Maddie Powell, Josh Teichmer, Devin Kurta.
can we have Jeff in first? Or us?
Yes, and we'd like to have Jeff. Here.
Minutes each.
20 minutes each.
So that'd be 20 minutes, we anticipate any action.
Correct.
And at that point, then we'll adjourn for the morning and see everybody back at 2 o'clock. It is 12:05, so it'll be until 12:45. Thank you.
Anyone on Zoom?